link. Oh, and we are live now. So I'm going to put out the link. This is a special edition of Kvetching Draftniks. With us at the moment, and more people might be coming later, we got Scott Karasik, and we got Arif Hassan, who does basically all the best Vikings content you could possibly have. Vikings Territory, the new Vikings site, which I can't remember the name. What's
Vikings Journal.
Vikings Journal?
Yeah.
But it's pretty awesome too. And he basically, if you need to know anything about the Vikings, he is the person to ask. He was at Vikings camp. I'm sure we all have questions about what it was like covering that camp. I know I have a lot of questions to ask about that. So I'm checking out the link right now.
I'm going to run my patented two tight end offense with Jimmy Graham at the helm.
So yeah, long weekends are the best, I gotta say. Long weekends are so nice.
If
I had
it's
vacation that I got
actually-
sick on, and then ended up getting better right for this long weekend. And it was much needed for me to take a break. So we tweeted out the link. People are probably starting to come in and view. So Scott said he had a story to share, so I'm excited to hear the story. And just so you know, tonight we're going to be talking about, we have our fantasy draft going, so we'll be talking about that and making picks as that happens. But honestly, nobody really cares about our fantasy leagues. So we're going to talk about college, we're going to talk about NFL, we're going to talk about everything. Whatever you want us to talk about, just tweet at us and we'll talk about it. So, Scott, tell your story.
All right, so for those that don't know, I sell cars for a living. That's what pays the bills. And today, I had to deliver a car to a guy out in Canton. For those that don't know, Canton, Georgia from Marietta, Georgia is about an hour away. So I had to drive out there right after we closed at 7 o'clock, and I made it here for the fantasy draft with 43 seconds left on the clock. And I had to drop off the guy who I went with at his house. 43 seconds. How about that?
Well, I mean,
That is very impressive.
who would you have auto drafted if you did nothing?
I think it had Marshawn Lynch up for my auto draft pick.
All I know is that Ben was going to auto-drafted Shady McCoy, which I found really funny.
That's pretty
He
good.
Ben is at
in the first place.
NYU now, and he doesn't have internet yet because his computer sucks.
Well, and he's at NYU.
I'm not in
It
this
actually
league,
is very close to where I work, which is funny. We're going to hang at some point soon. It'll happen. No, but anyway, so, if you were at Vikings camp, why don't you just... You probably have so many stories to share. Why don't you tell us sort of... Since you got to know a few members of the organization, if there was one person who you would want to just sit with for like 2 hours and just talk about life and or football with in the Vikings organization, who would it be?
Oh, Jesus.
I would talk with Adrian Peterson, too.
Adrian would actually be super boring to talk to. So would Teddy. Oh my God, he's so boring. I mean, I love both of them, but they're right, exactly. But they're mind-numbingly boring. Chad's a pretty interesting dude, but it's probably either Mike Zimmer or Brian Robinson, one of those two.
Mike Zimmer, the linebacker or the coach?
Robinson seems really cool on
The
Twitter.
coach. He is super cool. He's also like pretty responsive on Twitter if you just like tweet at him stuff.
But Zimmer is definitely one of those guys who you sort of like, you immediately connected with.
I mean, connected with. I mean, yeah, he's like a super like honest dude who doesn't really like. I don't know. There's like not a way to describe him that's like not also a boring cliche, but he's like really interesting. He's like an honest dude who like connects pretty quickly. I think he's charismatic. I don't know like where all these he did poorly in the interview reports came from, but maybe it's because I care about different stuff in a conversation than other people do. But I mean, he's candid, he's funny. I mean, he's not that different from the Hard Knocks Mike Zimmer, which is a great Mike Zimmer.
I wish we still had Mike Zimmer here as the defensive coordinator because, well, I wish that Mike Smith would have kept Mike Zimmer instead of bringing in Brian Gorder. Because if you ask anybody, 10 out of 10 football minds would tell you he made a bad choice.
He made a terrible choice. Oh, man. And that Hard Knocks would be way better. Well, you could always promote Brian Cox.
Mike Nolan's great, and Brian Cox is awesome.
Right.
Man, what channel is this friggin' Tennessee game on?
SEC Network. I couldn't find it either. I was watching off a stream.
6:11 on DirecTV, for those that don't have it. Since I do have it, I'm going to watch it.
And by the way, I just want to say, since I think everyone here was part of the original Sean Oakman tape watching a while ago, Fairley's playing pretty well right now against SMU, so good for him.
Oh, yeah? What about our boy Jamal Palmer, though? How's he doing?
Did you see his chest tattoo?
No. Wait, no, I have.
Yeah, he has a baller chest tattoo. Really cool.
Jamal Palmer is a first-round pick in my eyes.
He's not, but the chest tattoo is a first-round tattoo for sure.
Yeah.
It's a great tattoo.
What would Parsons say?
So anyway, how much college football have you guys actually watched this weekend, and sort of who jumped out at you sort of at first blush?
I mean, like I said in the last Kvetching Draftniks, I'm not a huge college football guy. So I saw the Minnesota game. So Max Williams, like clearly and obviously, and I have no idea why the Gophers won't use him as a tight end instead of as a body. But he definitely jumped out. He's pretty fantastic, athletically speaking. He's got a lot of great technique. Other than that, I mean, I watched the exciting stuff. So I saw, Gary Anderson ruin the game without Melvin Gordon rather. I saw a little bit of the Oklahoma State game. So obviously Tyreek Hill jumped out at me, but that's not news. He was pretty cool. Oh, Lale Collins is great.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat as Arf. I don't watch a ton of college football live, other than UConn, and it was just painful this week. Although Bronson Kafusi from BYU looked really good. He really impressed me as sort of like an interesting edge guy. But the other game that I watched a lot of was UCLA-Virginia. I gotta say, Virginia's edge rushers are really, really good. I mean, Eli Harrell and Max Vallis are two legitimate pro prospects that, heck, I would even say first or second round prospects that Virginia has on the edge. So those guys are really, really fast off the snap. And Vallis is somebody who I sort of had targeted when I originally was watching Eli Harrell, because Sully had told me Eli Harrell was really good, and Sully was right as always. And he just jumped off every single bit of tape that I watched. They dropped into coverage, they had him rushing the passer. He looks like he's going to be a special player. He could be a top 10 pick by the time he comes out, because he's only a sophomore right now. He's someone who I have my eye on going forward for sure. He showed special skill to me.
Yeah, he took over Brent Urban's spot, or?
No, he's an edge guy. Urban was a D tackle.
Oh, right.
So I think that he just took over the edge spot.
Just the edge spot.
Oh, I have 2 picks in a row, eh?
I've seen this little bit of the Tennessee game. I saw the Wisconsin game. And then because we've got a big old TV in the dealership, I saw bits and parts of the Georgia-Clemson game. Like Gurley running in a straight line for 100 straight yards, and no one being able to catch him.
Yeah, that's
early, right? East.
I mean, Gurley looked good. I mean, obviously he looked good. I'm not adding anything to the conversation by saying that. But I think I think that he probably won't end up being one of the top 2 backs drafted. I don't know.
Really,
Uh,
that's pretty good.
I, yeah, no, I mean, I like him a lot. I think, I don't think it'll be, anyone like Carlos Williams or something. I think it'll be Melvin Gordon first. And obviously, draft Twitter is always wrong about the order in which running backs are drafted, so take this all with a grain of salt. But, I think it'll be Melvin Gordon first. Could be just my Midwest bias. And then I kind of like Duke Johnson, but I'm crazy, so.
I like Duke Johnson. I like Duke Johnson
To be the second running back drafted, though? That's fun.
Yes, I do, actually. I like him better than Melvin Gordon. I have it Todd Gurley and then Duke Johnson and then probably Melvin Gordon.
When Steven Jackson was coming out of college and I had just kind of started getting into the draft, I was like, man, there's never going to be another guy like this. And then Todd Gurley comes out, and I'm like, oh, wait, never mind. There he is. Like he's exactly like Steven Jackson, minus any sort of receiving ability.
Did you see that Steven Jackson Toby Gerhart comp that hit Twitter like earlier today or yesterday, something like that? If you look at the measurables, it is eerie. They do play somewhat similarly, obviously. It obviously was an article more about how Toby Gerhart is white and no one gives him credit. But the measurables comp was insane, and then they also play similarly enough that it sort of raised an eyebrow. Just a point of interest.
All I know is my number one target idea for this draft is making sense. Who's the king of their offense? Julio Jones, Andre Johnson, Jimmy Graham.
What do you think? What do you think about Gronkowski this year? You think he's going to be healthy?
I think that they're slow playing him, but I will say that as somebody who watched every single snap of Jimmy Garoppolo's 4th preseason start, Tim Wright is not bad. He's actually he looked good. He looked good, and Aaron Dobson looked pretty good as well. So I think the Patriots, they're going to have some better receiving options this year than they did last year. Edelman has made leaps and bounds improvements from where he was 2 years ago to last year, and then to this year. He's better. He's a better athlete than Welker ever was. We all already knew that. But I think finally he's sort of bringing a different dimension than what Welker could bring with some of the vertical routes that he's running. And it changes the way that you have to line up for the Patriots. And I think Amendola, if healthy, he looks good. But if he's not healthy, now they have Kembrell Tompkins, and they already have Aaron Dobson, who looked good in the preseason as well, as they're trying to get him back up to speed. And then you got Tim Wright, you got Gronk, you got Vereen out of the backfield. You just have a lot of different options now that the Patriots can play along with. Brandon LaFell didn't look bad in the preseason either, and he's probably not like a number 2 option on the team, but if he's your number 5 or 6 option, like he's probably going to be for the Patriots, you're in pretty good shape. So I think that they've put together a pretty good offense. I mean, it stinks to see Mankins go. I think that they kept way too many offensive linemen through their final cut. Jordan Devey is trash. Their other guy they kept, Chris Barker, is trash. I'm hoping one of them gets cut before the regular season, especially since they need a long snapper, so they gotta get a long snapper there. But it looks like to me what I would do is different than what's going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to move Vollmer to guard and they're going to kick Cannon to tackle.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Which is, I think actually it makes sense. I personally would play Vollmer at tackle and just start Stork at center because Stork looked good against the Giants as well.
Who's the age of whatever?
I'll look it up.
Because they just took Andre Ellington.
Oh, that was who I was targeting.
Really?
Yeah.
Is this the second round?
This is the 4th? Oh,
No,
it's Sean. It's Sean is the age. I think we all wanted Ellington.
Andre Johnson.
Yeah, I gotta wait.
Jimmy Graham and Jordan Cameron. Number 1 wide receivers all on their offenses.
How many tight ends do you get to roster?
You get to roster as many as you feel like. No, 3 max.
All right.
See, I'm used to. It's funny. So used to Fanium scoring now that normal leagues look weird to me.
The 2 quarterback, like 4
Two
receiver Fannium
quarterback, two
leagues.
running back, 4 wide receiver, 2 tight end, like 6 bench. I'm
Yeah.
used to that, and this is just like a totally new world to me, which I need to get up to speed with because I'm in a work league this year where it's a pretty good buy-in, so I want to win. So I need some practice.
So I don't like pizza crust, but my dog loves it.
We don't like what?
I don't like pizza crust, but my dog loves it.
That is a beautiful relationship you've developed with your dog.
That's called man's best friend. That's symbiotic. Damn, all the running backs now stink.
That's how fantasy drafts work, man. They always do that. You can't get a running back in the 5th round.
In Fanium, you can. Here, you can't.
Well, it's because it's a 2-quarterback league. That's why.
And it's an 18 league.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I see what I'm going to do, though. I'm just going to... I'll just beef up where I can. I'm definitely going to take...
See, my idea is take wide receivers and then take a quarterback who I think is going to go 5,000
yards. Oh, IDP, too? I hate IDP.
IDP is great. What are you talking about?
What we're doing,
I think tackles are luck, and I think interceptions are luck, so I think it's just sort of like arbitrary.
Yeah, yes and no. Tackles are repeatable from year to year. They just are not an indicator of quality, that's all.
Exactly.
Just be sure to draft Paul Warlow. You'll get tons of tackles. Shit.
That's my boy. He is a good player.
Yeah.
He's a good player the way Keith Brooking was a good player.
Alright. That's one. And this is one quarterback, even though I like 2 QB. Shit. I gotta get used to drafting like in actual leagues. This is bad.
You haven't drafted a quarterback yet, have you?
I just drafted Luck.
Man, you don't know anything about fantasy football.
Rule number 1: don't take any Atlanta backs.
All right, that's a good rule. And I'm going to take.
Because you're gonna have a bad time.
All right. I took the most consistent receiver in fantasy.
You're gonna have a bad time.
I took the most consistent receiver in fantasy. Torrey Smith. I do not feel good about this team whatsoever. But this is good practice for me, so it'll be good.
Torrey Smith actually is a pretty good pick because it's 8 points every game, every single time.
For what?
8 points every game, every single time. That's Torrey Smith.
Yeah, the thing with Torrey Smith is that it's consistent.
Yeah, exactly. 8 points. Sometimes you get 10, sometimes you get 6, but mainly 8. Then he magically scores a touchdown one week, and you get like 15 out of him. And you're like, oh, hey, cool. But you know you're getting
in the long term. There's some reasonable value later. I just don't want to take a running back yet because they all suck so bad.
When it comes to running backs, I look at the offensive line. Who's got the most trustworthy offensive line of any of these guys?
Hey, anyone want Trent Richardson?
Who's got the most trustworthy offensive line of any of these guys?
I want Trent Richardson the same way I want a colonoscopy.
So, let's talk about someone took Nick Foles. Well, let's talk about just sort of generally, since I sort of talked about the Patriots a little bit, how you sort of feel about your teams now going into the season, and generally how you think cuts went, both for your team and also around the league.
I'll talk about the Vikings real quick. I thought, obviously the Vikings are on a team whose arrow's pointing up. I don't think that there's a huge surprise about that. I think that the optimism for the Vikings is generally warranted, but it sort of left cuts a little disappointed, in part because the Vikings cut basically every starting safety, or every safety who is in taking starting snaps, except for Robert Blanton, who was like a cornerback convert from Notre Dame. Vikings fans were kind of excited about him because he had like 20 snaps 2 years ago as a safety, and he looked kind of good. Like, I don't know, it's like pretty disappointing. I don't know if he's like ready to play opposite Harrison Smith. And we thought we were a little bit more set at safety, and then they cut like the three of the guys competing for the starting spot. And then the middle linebacker spot's obviously a problem. But in general, you know, there's a lot of reasons for optimism. It's easy to focus on the reasons that, you know, you were optimistic about before but aren't like materializing. I mean, Matt Khalil looks like dog shit right now. But the rest of the offensive line's pretty good. And, you know, if you got one guy, even if it's the left tackle, if you got one guy who's underperforming, you're not in a bad spot. I think the offense looks great. I think the defense is going to be a lot better. There's like not really anyone else who I was optimistic about that I'd be pessimistic about at this point. They all look pretty good. Patterson looks better than I thought he would. Jennings looks good as he always does. I'm really curious about Jarius Wright and his role in the offense, but he's like clearly the third receiver, especially with Jerome Simpson out.
Number one.
And I didn't see, did your dude Thielen make it?
Yeah, he made it. He made it as the fifth receiver over Rodney Smith, who also made it because Jerome Simpson's suspended. The question is what's going to happen when Jerome Simpson comes back. One of those receivers is probably going to go, or they're just going to cut the second fullback because this team's carrying two fullbacks.
Yeah, that was an interesting Twitter debate that I somehow found myself in the middle of. With
Wait,
Adam
were you
Thielen.
roped in?
Yeah, I got roped into the Adam Thielen isn't athletic because pretty much the dude was 6'3" and ran like a 4.4, and people were saying he wasn't athletic.
Because he's white.
Yeah, that's clearly why they. I mean, that was a reason why they were saying he wasn't athletic.
It's just like weird. They called him small too.
Yeah, no, they called him small. And he's 6'2". Not small. All right. It was good for me to wait.
I
gotta say, Maurice Jones-Drew looked darn good when I watched him recently. I might take a second quarterback just so that way I can just like trade one later.
Yeah, it's not a super flex. It's just a regular flex.
So I can't play a quarterback there?
No.
Oh, but I can play a tight end if I wanted to. Which I
wide
don't.
receiver, running back, good to go. Anything else, not really.
Okay. This is the worst because it's always like all the PPR. Then I'm gonna go with my dude Pierre. I think, yeah, because I'm still not sold on Ingram.
It's probably not a bad pick this late in the game.
I mean, we can always find other running backs. That's the thing. And Pierre did well for me last year in Fanium, and I have a rule with receivers. So if I'm adhering to this rule, then honestly, I probably should wait for another one because I see a lot of value later. So I'm going to troll all of you, and I'm not going to make a backup quarterback. That would be stupid. You know what? I'm going to troll all of you anyway, and I'm going to pick Jason Witten and make him into my flex player.
You're just taking my idea of a two tight end set.
So, did you already do that? I missed that.
Yeah, he's got Cameron and Graham.
Lord Cameron.
Oh, okay, well, now I have it too.
Who else can have Cameron? Fuck you guys.
I have it too, so it's okay.
Because Cameron is going to be the top. Cameron or Graham are going to be the top tight end, and then the other one's going to be the number 2.
Although, did you hear? I heard that Jason Witten got cut from the Cowboys.
It's a whole new era. It's a whole new era.
Caps, man.
We got to talk about this.
Cap's got the Alex Smith news.
Yeah. I can't believe that the guy gave him credit for it. Which, for the record, that guy's been a good sport about it. What's his name? Terez Paylor. I always think that his name is a spoonerism for Perez Taylor, but it's not. Right. His name is actually Terez Paylor. And no, he gave him credit for it, and then Rappaport was just like, that guy breaks fake news, right?
I think that's
Now,
like
I don't know. First of all, I've met Ian before. I met him at the draft. He's a really nice guy. So I think he probably has he has a good sense of humor from what I remember, and I remember him from when he was in the Patriots too. He had a good sense of humor. There are certain people who do make him angry. And Patriots Football Weekly makes those people make him very angry. I don't know about other people, but I just find it funny that he knew who Uncle Chaps was. Like he knew immediately. This guy breaks fake news.
Well, because what was the first piece of news? Because I remember the first time he broke a piece of fake news, he broke it by preceding it with 8 tweets, basically. That was like, yeah, so this is about to be a fake tweet. This is gonna be great.
It was,
he broke the Ryan Mallett news, didn't he?
No, it was Andre Johnson for Brian.
Oh, it was Andre Johnson. That was great.
It was amazing. And that was that was the day when the Rosenfels rumors were swirling.
Yeah, because Rosenfeld was just
I was DMing you about what I was hearing about the insanity there, which I still think probably was just people being stupid. But we never actually found out what those rumors amounted to, right? There was never any resolution.
Right.
So, yeah. That sort of never came to pass. I will say, though, that SB Nation is on this right now, apparently, trying to get an interview between Uncle Chaps and current University of Texas San Antonio football head coach Larry Coker.
What?
If that happens, it's been brought to SB Nation's attention that this should happen. So hopefully it happens. Because that would be... I want a morning show, to be honest. I want a weekly show where they go over, football. Uncle Chaps and Larry Coker. I think that would be great TV. I would watch that every single week, and I don't give a flying fox about...
Oh, I can actually take Aaron Sproles this year.
Oh, you couldn't because he was a Saint?
He's going to snipe some stuff away from LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, that's why I didn't take McCoy at 1.
Yeah.
Even though I'm nervous about...
Darling, guys, so...
What?
You do get a point per reception.
Yeah,
so
that's why it's Charles.
If Sproles is taking some of those receptions away, I think McCoy ends up being the number 4 back behind Forte and Peterson.
And I got Stephen Ridley from the Patriots.
Ooh, nice.
He is the best back on the Patriots, but he's gonna end up on the bench when he fumbles.
Yeah, they'll have 1,000 yards before he does that.
Yeah, but he's gonna fumble, and he's gonna end up on the bench. And
I've got the ultimate dick move that I'm about to do. If it
okay, are you gonna take Teddy?
Huh?
Are you gonna take Teddy?
No, not at all. I like Teddy,
They're just...
but I'm not gonna take him.
I don't like picking first. It's the worst.
Oh,
So-
I don't like picking first. No.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna take a sleeper who no one talks about this year. I'm taking Dwayne Bowe with my next pick because I don't think he's suspended 1 game, but he's number 1 receiver on a pretty good team, so he should be getting more love right now.
Other receivers.
You name your team now over Dwayne Bowe.
Oh, some team over Dwayne Bowe.
Some team over Dwayne Bowe.
Y'all are so creative. What do you come up with the same name every year?
No, I like my team name. I like Matthew McCollinsworth.
If I do wind up with Marcus Rogers, I'm gonna change my team name to Quiz on Your Face. It's what's gonna happen.
Him. No one else is going to take Jaquiz Rogers.
Well, then please let me have him with the last pick so I can do that.
No, I think you should scare him early. Make sure you get that team name locked up. Yeah, get that team name locked up.
Well, no, because I know I'm going to end up with the other guy.
Norja Moreno did not have a lot of fantasy points last year.
57, 56. Holy shit, Tennessee's demolishing Utah State.
Yeah, Chucky
Really?
Chucky looked a little bit less than fresh.
I heard I heard Art Briles is abusing Bryce Petty. What's going on there?
I heard that he like ran into got injured somehow.
Already? Oh
Yeah.
my god! I mean,
He
that's
already got
terrible. I
injured.
shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't laugh. That's so bad.
You know what?
wouldn't
I
laugh.
need the good vibes of my team. I don't even care.
All right, give me 1 second. All right, Luke.
I don't even need Russell Wilson, but I took him anyway. Jeez, I don't do this IDP thing ever. I have no idea how to do any of this. I'm just gonna wait as late as I can.
Just draft dudes who are overrated because they always get a bunch of tackles and a bunch of interceptions. You know who's good at IDP? D'Angelo Hall, because he's good for like 4 interceptions a year. He always tackles the dude that he gets burned by. Yeah. Also, bad safeties are really good in IDP. Good safeties are okay. Bad safeties are great. Denoris Cersei was money.
He's
He
not.
cost me nothing.
Brady in the 9th round. Come on, guys.
That's a good pick. I think if I was
That's the
doing this
fucking
draft
guys.
again, I would have waited to take a quarterback. Because there are a lot of good quarterbacks out there.
There's a lot
I
of
have
good
two
but
really good quarterbacks. But that was also because I just see a lot of like sleeper value that I
here's
just
the
haven't
thing.
taken.
I got Tom Brady because if one of y'all takes one of the boys that I want on defense, that's going to be the trade, and everyone's going to go, "What the fuck is Scott doing?"
If I do, then okay, another quarterback. All the quarterbacks for me.
I'm going to be like, "I'm going to trade you Tom Brady for Paul Warlow," and you're going to be like,
Right now.
That actually, though, from a fantasy perspective,
Oh,
that is
I
not
gotta
a terrible
say,
trade, actually.
if bad
really not.
bad players are good in IDP, then there's a reason why Luke Kuechly is so high in this ranking.
Well, I'm not saying all bad players are good or that all good players are bad at IDP.
Chad Greenway too. Chad Greenway was like a
He's
top
money in
linebacker.
IDP. Dude, I get him in IDP almost every year.
And you ate him.
Dude, he's so money.
"See, the issue that I have with IDP is when do I start taking these guys?"
Oh, no one ever knows. Just start drafting defensive players as soon as someone takes like Robert Quinn or J.J. Watt. They're always the first to go.
All right, so no, I'm going to try and figure out based on my who's the top target idea. Yeah, but when your top receivers are Martellus Bennett and Darius Green, that ain't going to happen.
I thought you were going to take all the tight ends away from people.
There's no more tight ends left. I'll just stick with the first and the second.
I will say, I shouldn't say this till my pick. Chandler Jones looks scary in the preseason.
Don't worry, no one's going to...
Malachi Goodman looks scary in the preseason too. What's your point?
No, Chandler Jones had 2 sacks in 10 snaps. In 10 snaps, Chandler Jones had 2 sacks, 2 tackles in the backfield of running backs, and 2 pressures.
So he's on pace for like 200 sacks then.
Quick, Black Unicorn or Jordan Reed?
He looked amazing against the Panthers' crap offensive line.
Black Unicorn or Jordan Reed?
Jordan Reed.
I would probably take Jordan Reed.
Mike Evans, I hate concussions.
Why? Wait, Mike Evans is available still?
Yeah, he is.
That don't make any sense.
Yeah. Everybody clearly wanted him. So good job, Scott. You made a lot of good work.
If they were watching this, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm good. Scott's talking about tight ends." No, the plan was to take Mike Evans the whole way. I saw they're really
Why
letting
would
this
you-
guy follow me. Well, and I've got this thing where I don't like to take players that are also in the division with the Falcons. But since I'm playing against y'all, that rules out the window. I've got to actually just take the best player available if I want any shot at this league.
Just to clarify, I'm not in the league auto-drafting, right?
You're auto-drafting.
What? What? That's awesome.
You're
Who do I
out.
have?
Yeah, you're up now. You just took Sean Green.
Oh,
Oh, I forgot Rip was like I know I didn't know you were auto drafting, dude.
I invited you. I invited everyone.
yeah.
invited
I mean,
everyone who was in our
I
league.
didn't check my thing.
Well, you just drafted Sean Green, so I'll tell you who's on your team after I make my picks. Carlos Hyde actually is pretty tempting right now.
I kind of like want to see who you got.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look
I
at
will
who I
let
have.
you know who you got in a second. I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to take. Should I take Jonathan
Just
Grimes?
got John Green.
Fantasy Twitter loves Jonathan Grimes. Jarek McKinnon's not going to play at all, right?
All right, let's take a look at who I have. Jesus, this isn't bad. Holy shit. Oh, I'm boned at tight end though.
Yeah, so I would totally bang Jennifer Lawrence.
Well, yeah, but that hasn't changed since yesterday.
No, but
That's not new
it's only been
news.
enhanced since yesterday. Just like I would totally bang Michaela Maroney now that she's over 18. Because, you know, she's
Right.
a gym. And, yeah. Probably shouldn't be saying this, but there's this chubby chick at work who I could probably bang if I wanted to.
We're so proud of this guy.
Hey, fat chicks need love too, sir.
That is true. Actually, when I was in San Diego, there was this guy who like he would only ever say that, and I don't think I saw him have sex once when I was in San Diego. But I would go out with him like every single week, and I would be like, "Fat chicks need love too," and then he'd never actually bang a fat chick,
Well, that's just rude.
which is kind of sad. Yeah. All right, I have no idea what I'm gonna take, but I have 10 seconds left, so I'm gonna go to all. And they're all quarterbacks. Damn it! I'm literally about to auto draft. No, no, no.
You just got Jeremy Hill and Donald Brown. How does that sound? I think you are going to want to trade for Tom Brady now.
Honestly, I'm happy I got Jeremy Hill. These are my bench guys. But, you know what?
You're going to probably get Ben Roethlisberger.
I need to make a friggin' like list of people though.
Look at that.
Let's see if
I got
Let's
some
see if
Jack
Greenway
Greenway.
actually works. No,
Wait, so who's on your team?
I have like 8 running backs.
Well, your
and
wide receivers are pretty bad because you're
4
gonna
of
have.
them
about the time you take a Falcons running back. Devontae Freeman. See, I'm taking Falcons running backs as my bye week backs. You know, when
I'm still not convinced that's a good idea, even still.
This is now turned into stream of consciousness.
It's just 1 week. It's just 1 week that I have to worry about zero production.
One free agent signing that I think that the team could regret it. I don't think T.J. Ward is going to be very good in Denver.
Dude, you know who's going to be sick is Marquez North and Jalen Hurd. Those guys are fucking nasty.
Tennessee?
Yeah. Well, Jalen Hurd's this like 6'3", 240-pound running back who is disgusting.
I've heard good things about him. I haven't actually seen him play yet. He's playing right now, though.
Levante David just went after Devontae Freeman. That's tough to say back-to-back.
Levante David, draft Twitter favorite.
I'm just glad I got my Chad Greenway pick in. Y'all can't snipe me now.
We wanted to so badly.
Fuck you. You know who's going to be surprisingly good and have a lot of sacks this year?
Chad Greenway?
No.
No. Who?
No. I'm going to go with the all like middle linebacker core for my linebackers.
You should.
I'm going to go with Vontez Burfict if he's there. Probably won't be, but Vontez Burfict if he's there, and Paul Warlow.
I know who I'm going for. I don't even know where he is on this list. Oh, I found him.
Okay, there's only one person between me and Warlow. And now I got Warlow.
You actually took
man.
Warlow.
Dude, Warlow is beast. You should take a look at his like tackles per snap. It's
Yeah, dude.
actually kind of nuts.
Yeah. Paul Warlow is an IDP king. And
Yeah.
the Falcons are running a lot more A-gap blitzes with him, so it wouldn't shock me if he got like 6 sacks this year.
Well, I only know the players who talk about in Hard Knocks, and they don't talk about Warlow ever for some reason.
Yeah, because they don't want his name getting out. They don't want him people going, "Oh my God, this guy's great."
Why
So
wouldn't they
talk
want
about
that? They're not allowed to like sign him. Like, why wouldn't they want that? What are they stashing?
Warlow, Bartu, and then Alford and Trufant haven't been shown at all either.
And when they've shown they've been beaten by Julio Jones.
Yeah, but that's
Julio Jones,
happens
though,
all
you
the time.
expect him to beat them.
To be fair, Julio Jones beat Darrell Revis for like a 40-yard play last year too, so I'm not too worried about it. Or not last year, but 2 years ago.
All right, I'm going to now that I'm off auto draft, I'm going to take.
Carlos Dansby.
Do it.
If I take would Earl Thomas be a bad pick right now?
Yeah.
Probably.
Would he?
You don't take good safeties in drafts like this. Because IDP is all about tackle numbers.
But he's going to make a lot of interceptions.
Great.
Great, but he's going to average 1 a game?
It's like you can't use interceptions to define your.
This is completely new territory for me. But if we're talking about bad linebackers,
All about tackles and sacks.
if we're talking about bad linebackers, Michael Kendrick should be top of the list.
Well, no, and get playmakers like linebackers that do get sacks and interceptions. And
Oh, actually, then I'm gonna take. This is so hard.
That's
Yeah,
what she
that's
said.
tough, man.
It's
That's
like really
tough.
hard. All right, I'm gonna take this guy because he's always impressed when I've watched him. And I'm gonna be
Taking Warlow? Come on, man.
I'm gonna be a homer. Jarrell Freeman, who I took Jarrell Freeman and Chandler Jones. Jarrell Freeman, every time I watch him, he's making a play. And he should only get better this year because he's going to have DeQuell next to him, and DeQuell's probably going to get more attention, so Freeman's just going to shoot gaps and just make tackles. So that's my opinion.
Not that we're doing...
God, my team is so boned. Oh my god.
Oh,
This is
guys,
great.
return yards get points.
See,
Yo,
I have
what?
no idea what we're doing right now.
Return touchdowns get points, and return yards get points.
God.
Oh, God, if
So
we're talking about bad
return-
safeties, I'm going to take Calvin Pryor. Oh, if we're taking bad quarterbacks, I could take Joe Hayden.
Where's
That's
Joe?
not bad. Kean just hates Joe Hayden. I don't know why. I don't think Kean has a very good taste in cornerbacks. Don't tell him I said that.
Isn't that his
No.
whole thing? That's his whole thing.
Yeah, but part of the problem is that I think I understand he has a different method because he watches every single snap, which I think makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways, and it allows you to get a good holistic perspective of cornerbacks. But I also think that he doesn't take scheme into account, so he doesn't consider any zone snaps, and he
Yeah,
doesn't.
that actually does bother me a lot.
Which it's hard to separate that when that's such a huge part for a lot of quarterbacks, it's a huge part of the game. So I mean, I respect the process because his process is unmatched. I think he does a great job, but I would probably do it a little bit differently if I was in his position. But
So
and
I
also
just
he
took-
likes Stephon Gilmore, who sucks. I still don't know why he likes Stephon Gilmore so much.
Guys, I just took Devin Hester because return players have value. Just want to make sure that's known.
Yeah, but he's past his prime.
1 point for 25 yards on kick return. 1 point for every 10 yards on punt returns.
He's still past his prime though.
He's still past his prime, but if he
Is he
gets a
going to be
touchdown-
returning? I don't think he'll return every single. He's only going to return kicks for the record, probably, right? He's not going to return every single.
He returns every single ball that's kicked in the air.
We'll see if that happens. I'll be surprised if that
That's
ends
the
up.
plan for him.
He's bold like that. That makes
He's
sense.
tired though. He's going to be so tired by the beginning of the season.
Well, I'm just making it known that return value. These guys have return value, so you can take a running back that might be a returner. Quick, who's the Minnesota returner?
It's Patterson. I guarantee he's been drafted.
He has been picked.
You
All right. Well,
can always take Marcus Sherrills.
yeah, no, fuck that.
He can get points, though.
I want talented players, not Marcus Sherrills.
He led the league in punt return average last year.
Yeah, he's one of the best ever, right?
Nah, fuck it. I'm gonna take a team. I take a guy who's on a shitty team who's gonna see a lot of tackles. Carlos Dansby.
Dansby was the best middle linebacker in football last year by my numbers.
Carlos
He was
Dansby
really good.
combined
He was
for
on my own
2
pro team.
tackles and 20 sacks, so we'll be good.
Someone just took friggin' the guy who I wanted. I wanted Benjamin.
Yeah, someone took him right before I could take him, too. That's too bad.
Oh. Okay, well, that's good to know. They wouldn't have had a chance at him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take 4 middle linebackers just so I can piss people.
One guy who I will not be taking this draft is Harry Douglas.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch Harry Douglas with a 10-foot pole.
So, when you
And
watch
that's-
Harry Douglas on Hard Knocks, what's your reaction whenever you see Harry Douglas do anything on Hard Knocks?
It's just like, why is this guy in my screen? He's not that crucial to the team. He's really not. You could cut
Like
him.
a total, he hogs the camera like no one else.
Oh, yeah. Well, that and his girlfriend's gorgeous. Maybe it's his wife. I don't know.
Oh, should I take Swearinger? That's tempting.
Hard hitting. Skull knocking.
Dexter McDougal is rated way too highly on this considering he's out for the season.
Who is?
Dexter McDougal is rated 658.
Yeah, they're pretty slow to respond to this sort of stuff.
I mean, this is ESPN we're talking about here.
Well, I think that these guys are going to have a lot of tackles because this guy will have a lot of tackles. And this guy...
I like how you said this guy, and Eli Manning was just drafted. I think he'll have a lot of tackles, too.
Yeah, Eli Manning is going to have a lot of tackles this year. Yeah, I'm going to take Bam Bam.
You took Mark Barron.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
he sucks.
What?
If they were like Burns as a stat, he would be just destroyed.
Can we talk about how his better teammate safety got cut from Carolina?
Robert Lester?
Yeah. I think Robert Lester might be better than Mark Barron.
And how crazy is it? Mark Barron's in Tampa.
No, I'm talking about Lester got cut from Carolina.
Yeah. Well, Lester got cut from Carolina and then made it through waivers. How'd that happen? I don't know. Daryl Smith. You know why defensive player? He kind of sucks? Is that what you said?
Well, that's why you took him, right? Because he sucks. Make a
Oh, I
lot
took
of
him.
tackles.
He's going to get a shit ton of tackles.
Hmm.
Because that's really all that matters, man.
Yeah, I don't get this league.
Oh,
But
man.
I'm gonna try. Oh man, what?
I just keep looking at all of these available linebackers that they keep recommending to me. They're recommending Navarro Bowman to me right now. Like, that's man.
That might be a mistake.
Guys, he's still available.
What's up?
You off the radio?
No, I'm still doing it.
I'll come back.
Okay.
This is fun. Oh, I'm gonna take. I think next pick I know who I'm gonna take. I'm gonna take one of our favorites and one of my favorites, and then we can tell the story about how wonderful he is after.
Wait, what?
Yeah, this draft is going longer than I thought it was going to go. How many rounds is this?
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 10 more rounds.
That's a lot of rounds.
Might be.
9 after this one.
Okay.
So I've taken 4 middle linebackers: Paul Warlow, Carlos Dansby, Daryl Smith, and Jared Mayo. All of
That's
them are
probably
tackles.
smart with Mayo.
That's 400 tackles, probably 20 sacks, and then probably like 10 interceptions right there. That's how you do IDP, gentlemen.
Gentlemen.
Gentlemen. Yes, gentlemen. Would you rather me call you ladies?
Whatever floats your boat, man.
And then Roman Harper's a safety backer. If
I
you
just
want me
grabbed me a safety backer. Look at that.
Could you take Barry
Uh-huh.
Church?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
Barry
took Barry Church.
Barry Church is a safety backer. Yeah, he's got no coverage ability, but he's great against the run, so he's a safety backer.
Safety backer. You gave me all sorts of tackle
Well,
stats.
That's the way you gotta look at it. Who's projected to have the highest amount of tackles? LaRon Landry.
Well, I'm just going to be a homer for the next pick once this person picks.
Only for the next pick.
Matt needs to pick.
Chandler Jones?
All right, we're going to go with Jamie Collins because he's a beast. And
Okay,
then after that, and he's going to start at middle linebacker this year.
Who is?
Jamie Collins.
He's starting at middle linebacker?
That's the rumor. We're going to a 3-4, and it
Yeah.
sounds like he's going to be playing the strong middle.
That's
So,
weird to me, man. That is weird to me.
But
So
they're
Collins-
going to move him around. They're going to like move him around with everyone else in the team. It's going to be weird.
So
But
Collins, Ted, and then Mayo at the mic?
Mayo and Hightower are going to rotate.
Oh.
But
They're not gonna
Good draft
rotate.
pick, man. Good pick. Good Mayo pick.
They're not gonna rotate. Why would they
But no,
rotate?
Art's going to like this pick. This is. I'm taking a flyer on this guy. We're going to go with a hero.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna go with my dude who I think could be
Barry.
a sleeper this year, John Brown from Arizona. John Brown, who every time he makes a touchdown, there will be a Harper's Ferry reference made somewhere on my Twitter feed. Because it's just too easy.
Primo always ready.
I'm still mad that he's not gonna play the Redskins.
Who?
Because they play the Redskins, but it's not where he can go visit Harper's Ferry.
Why does that matter?
Well,
Because
it's
John Brown,
Oh,
Dude,
come on.
and he led the raid on Harper's Ferry. This is AP American history.
Yeah, famous American abolitionist John Brown.
Did you just say AP American history?
Fine, normal American history.
It's
don't
the
care.
same American history, actually.
It's all the same.
Who the fuck is John Brown?
Oh my god.
American hero, John Brown.
People thought he was literally insane because he thought slavery was bad, and in response, he freed a bunch of slaves, and he raided an armory, a federal armory, to do it. He also did a couple of other things too, like in Kansas and stuff like that. But that's basically it.
Speaking of, I was going through
next.
I was going through this with somebody on. I think it might have been. Was it? No, it was Owen Good, who writes. He used to write for Kotaku, and now he writes for Polygon. If you look through some of the histories of these college team names and logos, a lot of them are related to slavery, especially in the South. It's really interesting.
Well, you know the Kansas Jayhawk is related to abolition, which
Yep. Kansas and Missouri. And actually, it has to do. Apparently, at the time, Missouri was very sort of like related to slavery.
yeah.
University of Missouri, like that was like a mindset that a lot of people had there. And Kansas, like freedom, Jayhawkers, were people who
Oh,
advocated
that
for
sniped
slavery
on
freedom.
Brian Hartline of all people. Jesus. Whatever. I'll just take another safety.
You know who Brian Hartline is like?
Is he
Michael
like
Jenkins.
Adam Thielen? No, he's like Adam Thielen, right? Because they're both white.
No, he's like Michael Jenkins
Oh, you know that's
from
actually not a bad comp.
the old Atlanta Falcons player.
Yeah, no, I am familiar with Michael Jenkins.
Oh yeah, I forgot he played for y'all too.
Yeah, he was supposed to help install the Musgrave offense.
Calais Campbell, is he injured or not?
I don't know. I don't get interior
Well, I'm
defensive players
taking
unless
him,
they're
so.
JJ Watt. All right.
And I think I'm taking their backup.
Oh, there we go. I
Oh,
love how
somebody took Niles. Somebody took my handcuff.
I'm going to take a guy, and y'all are going to go, why are you taking him that high? And I know why. I know how they're
Well,
using.
I would hope you knew why.
Yeah,
This is
otherwise
my-
that could be a mistake.
This is my sleeper for defensive lineman.
Let me guess. He is a Falcon.
Oh, of course.
I'm already not impressed.
Yeah, already. It's just like.
I guarantee he gets 10 sacks, 40 tackles. At
You
least 40 tackles.
guarantee 10 sacks?
I can guarantee 10 sacks for this guy. He's playing that much. He had 40.
You know what? I'm gonna take.
It's is it Sheed? Is it Rashid Hagman?
No. He's going to be rotational.
Osi Umenyiora then.
No. Hell no.
So anyway, if you
I'll
didn't know,
explain-
University of
I'll explain
Virginia uniforms originally wore gray and cardinal red as a tribute to the Confederate gray uniforms that were stained with Southern blood. But they did not show up well on football fields because football fields were dirty. So instead, they changed it to orange and navy blue because somebody was wearing a scarf that they had gotten when they were at Oxford that was orange and navy blue.
Who is this? Auburn?
This is University of Virginia.
Oh, okay.
That is but one example.
Molly! My dog is barking at my dad.
That is but one example of colors that had to do with the Civil War and/or team names that had to do with the Civil War. I mean, Ole Miss is obvious.
All right, so I'm going to take Jonathan Massaquoi here.
Whatever, man.
Who even is that? Is that a made-up player?
Is that a real person?
Yes, it is a real person.
Okay, so I just drafted Demaryius Johnson. He is going to be the returner for the Texans, right? I should have checked.
I believe so.
Do they have anyone else?
Hey, Jonathan Massaquoi had 4 sacks starting 6 games last year.
Okay.
He was a rotational guy on rundowns before that. Now that he actually gets to play passing downs, he should be able to get 10 sacks pretty easily. And people go, where'd this guy come from?
You make it sound like it's unreasonable for them not to figure out where this guy came from when you're describing why they wouldn't know. That's not unreasonable, man.
Nobody watches teams that in-depth. Like, if you ask me anything about the Patriots, outside of Jamie Collins as like a potential breakout guy, I'd have no idea.
Well, I know who Adam Thielen is.
Yeah, he's gonna break out, right?
I don't think he's athletic enough, to be honest. I don't think he's big enough. I don't think he's big enough. He's no Jeff Janis.
It's true.
Oh.
He's no Jeff Janis.
Jeff Janis, I have to say, I think I love the way that Green Bay is using him because basically it takes care of the issues that I was scared they could have with him. Because his hands are still not very good, but they're literally just running him over the middle and just throwing him passes and letting him make things happen after the catch, which is how they should use him, which I'm very happy about. It sort of lets him use his skills the best way, so I'm very happy with that.
All right, time for me to add more offensive players. I know who I'm going to take.
Didn't you already pick?
Yeah.
This is Arif.
Yeah, no, it's me. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
My deep,
I was
Yeah.
confused.
This
I'm
is
going
bad.
off.
This is so bad.
I have no idea. Like, that the feeling?
I'm just taking returners now. They've all been taken. This makes so much sense.
Almost all of them have been taken.
Well, that sounds like a vague Atlanta reference. Hold on.
Not an Atlanta
It's
reference.
Esther.
Not in
Oh, yeah.
Atlanta. We got Hester. My boy out in Washington, Andre Roberts.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
They did just cut Richard Crawford, which makes me sad. And he was going to be their returner. Oh, Dion Buchanan is bad too. I could pick him. He looked bad when I watched him in the preseason. Who's looked bad to you when you've watched him in the preseason?
Buchanan hasn't looked bad, but he looks like the kind of safety who's going to have 100 tackles because everyone in front of him sucks.
Like,
That's why it's a Swearinger, because everyone in front of him sucks.
I actually felt bad for Swearinger. I think he's getting a bad rep.
Although,
It seems like, at least on Hard Knocks, they're painting him as like just like someone who just hits people for no reason. He's turning in. They're like sort of like creating a Merriweather.
It's
Well,
awesome.
they do have Justin Tuggle on the Texans right now. Do you remember going even before that season when I said if Tuggle gets some time to just turn into his dad and develop, he'll do it? Just saying, man.
All right, well, I'm going to take Curtis Lofton because he's probably making a lot of tackles.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to take Cortez Allen because
And
I have no reason. They've got a guy named Saeed Lee ranked like 706, and he's on the Falcons.
Did he
The
get
Falcons cut Saeed Lee back in February.
That is great.
So what the hell, man? We cut him back in February. It doesn't even make sense.
I'm not going to take Manti Te'o.
How's my boy Marquez North looking? Ooh! Butch Davis has a good team this year, man.
Jackson Jeffcoat, he sucks so much.
Is he on a team now?
I don't think so. All
The
these
math
players are
rushers,
just
though.
so awful.
Such a
I
math
don't know
rusher.
what to do.
What is
He's a math rusher.
Math rushers. Why is that a big deal?
We're
Am I
just
the only one?
really with it's just funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually really good and
Shouldn't
pretty
give
smart
him
work.
like-
I just like to give him shit.
No, it's a good concept. It's just kind of like he just goes so over the top with it. It's just really funny.
Well, it's not a perfect concept.
It's not, but it's just funny that he goes over the top with it.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
it's like props to him for doing it because it's obviously, you know, I think it took a lot of work. I think it was pretty smart, but it
Yeah.
is so funny the way that he treats it and the way that we treat him through it. I think that's a good productive dialogue for us to continue.
Well,
having.
part of the issue also is that he never defined who the math rushers actually were before the draft. So there was a lot of confusion about what the math rushers actually were.
I'm still surprised Kareem Martin wasn't a math rusher. Like that makes
That's
no
the
sense to me.
thing. Like, he talked him up before the draft, too. Why wouldn't he be a math rusher? We don't know why he wouldn't be a math rusher. Like, there's no explanation. There's no actual codified explanation for it. And that actually reminds me that tomorrow...
Mass. Mass is why he's not a math rusher.
No, I think it was his cone.
Right. Well, so no, because I asked Justice about this. It's either your 3-cone or your explosion related to your mass. The reason that Kareem Martin is weird to me is because even though he doesn't have a ton of mass, you know, I ran a regression of I ran a regression against expected 3-cone and expected explosion times. Well, actually expected combine times for everybody's weight and height, and Kareem Martin still like blows people out of the water in terms of his explosion scores. So it is still confusing to me.
He
That-
destroys the numbers too, so I don't understand you.
Part of my issue also is that he wasn't good when I watched him play at all. He just didn't show any of the skills that everyone seemed to be talking about. Like the athletic ability that he's perceived to have, I just didn't see it.
Oh wait, is it time? It is about that time.
It's about that time to do what? What are you doing? Oh my god! Oh my god!
Wait,
He
what?
deserves it. He just drafted Quiz. That's all.
Oh. He can change his teammate name now. Someone drafted Micah Hyde. He does suck.
Wait, what? Who drafted Micah Hyde?
I don't know, but he is awful, so.
Oh, I need to draft another pass rusher. I've got Clowney and Massapal, but I need someone else that's good.
Shit, I have like this bad bug bite on my arm. It's really
I
good.
might as well. Draft him just in tuck.
Jordan or DeMontre Moore?
I will go Cameron Jordan. 'Cause I don't think DeMontre Moore is even going to start.
Is Cam Jordan still available?
All right, that's one. I like Lorenzo Taliaferro a lot, by the way. And as a sleeper.
Cam Jordan's not available, man.
Oh, I thought you said Cam Jordan.
Did he say Jordan Cameron?
Deion Jordan. Because if I could get
Deion Jordan, I wouldn't touch Deion Jordan with a 10-foot pole at all. And I'm going to be a homer and take Aaron Dobson. And I'll stash him.
Well, I'm going to be a homer and take...
Ooh, there's somebody else there who I actually kind of like. A wide receiver.
There's like 4 people that make me say I'm a homer. I'm going to take some people who I hated watching Atlanta play against throughout the years to finish out my draft. Like,
you took Jarek. Oh, no, someone took Jarek.
I'm going to take Julius Peppers.
Ugh, really? That dude is not going to produce. No way.
You saw him play against Atlanta twice a year for the past decade. You'd want to take him too.
He's playing as a 3-4 defensive end. That's.
He seems to be motivated this year for the first time in his career.
Well, I know exactly who I'm taking to end out my draft if they're there. And there are 2 sleepers who I actually really like, which went really well. So, is there one team this year that you guys think people are just hyping up way too much?
I always think that about New England, so.
Okay. I think this year actually, last year they hyped us up too much. I think this year we're actually, the defense looks really good.
I'm still a believer in Brady's decline, so we'll see.
We'll see. He looked really good in the preseason. That's my only evidence. He looked really good in the preseason.
That's fantastic, man.
That's my only evidence.
I don't know, I'll take a quick look at the Boveda odds. I'll take a look at the Boveda odds as like a good
one
proxy
team that you think is going to be worse than people think they are this year.
Carolina, by far.
Who thinks they're going to be good, though?
I've seen a lot of people who are like, yeah, they're going to repeat because the South sucks. And I'm just like, do you not see who they have to throw to? They got shit.
Yeah, New Orleans seems to be the favorite for me there.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to take another Cleveland receiver. I'm going to go with my boy Freeman on this one and see if he's right.
Mike Freeman?
Yeah, man.
He blocked me on Twitter, and I don't know why.
Really? He follows me on Twitter, and I don't know why.
He blocked me, and I'm not entirely... I was never rude to him.
I DM him
all the time. Me.
I've even got him on Facebook, and I message him every now and again. He's a real nice guy.
I know. I'm a fan of his. He blocked me. I don't know why he blocked me.
He might have done it accidentally, too.
Yeah, maybe. But it made me sad.
So all these famous people have nudes coming out today, and I think it's amazing. Jennifer Lawrence, of course, is the famous one. But there's like this girl, Victoria Justice, who looks pretty good. There's a bunch of them where it's just like these girls getting plowed, like Olivia Munn.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's one of her just getting plowed, wearing like a stormtrooper helmet.
Then how do you know it's her? What? How do you know it's her then?
No, I'm just messing around. She's not wearing anything. What are you talking about, man?
Stormtrooper.
Shock value. That was the best reaction. I couldn't have hoped for anything better. Oh, I know who else I'm going to take. It's going to be a number 1 wide receiver. Because ain't going to be Sammy Watkins.
Kevin Minter's starting, right?
Who?
I'd hope so.
Kevin Minter.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't trust the yes. Let's see.
I will say Odell Beckham, I'm not going to draft him. I have a feeling that Davis Maddock might have been right about Odell Beckham. I think I should just start trusting him on receivers.
Really? Whatever, I'm going to draft Odell Beckham. There we go.
Oh,
Get that
really?
going.
Good
Yeah.
for you.
I'm going to take Robert Woods.
I'm going to take someone when my pick comes around that people underrating a little bit.
Lance Moore.
First, I'm going to take Tim Wright because he's Tim Wright. And then I'm going to take Jermaine Kearse, who I think is going to end up being the number one receiver in Seattle when, what's his name, gets injured. Harvin. That draft didn't go that long. It only took an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, those last 10 rounds fly, man.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just go, oh, best player available. Might as well. Auto draft.
Oh, Aaron Henderson's available, guys.
Who?
Aaron Henderson.
Who the fuck is that?
Vikings cut him because he kept on showing up to practices hungover.
Oh, okay.
112 tackles last year.
Robert Woods.
Can't believe Robert Woods and Cliff Averill were both available. I should not have taken Justin Tuck. That was a terrible decision.
Okay. All right, so I'm leaving the draft now. That was fun. What else do we want to talk about? Now we're talking about things that aren't fantasy.
How did you how that went down, though? I was calling my shot the entire time, and every single round, picked them. So I either know that they were good picks, or they were just no one wanted them.
I know in the future that I am not picking a quarterback before like round 6 or 7. Because there are so many good ones who slip.
I didn't pick a backup quarterback.
Round 9.
Like,
That's
there's no reason to take quarterback before round 6 or 7. I don't know why I took Luck. I panicked because I wanted value, I guess.
Yeah, well, because Luck is a panic pick, man.
I guess. I just
That's all
wanted
Luck
value.
is.
Wanted value.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. Andrew Luck is always... I feel like he's never going to be... I feel like his fantasy value will always be behind his actual value. There's not a situation where I think Andrew Luck, unless his offensive coordinator changes and his offense changes, that his fantasy value is ever going to be commensurate with his actual value.
See, I think he throws the ball a lot. They can't run the ball for anything, so...
That didn't stop him last year.
Yeah, but he threw a lot of touchdowns last year. He was pretty darn good fantasy quarterback last year. Like, in the Fannium draft I was in, I was down, because it's 2 QB league, so quarterbacks are at a bit of a higher premium. I was down to Luck, Russ Wilson, and RG3. So I was down to like all 3 of the 2012 quarterbacks. And I went with Wilson over all of them because I have had Wilson for 2 years in a row, and we've won the championship both times, so it's like good luck charm for me. But if I hadn't, like, unbiased, I would have gone with Luck.
See, last year, Luck threw the ball a lot. He still didn't crack 4,000 yards. If you have a starting, how many teams is this league in? 12? 10?
12.
12.
Tom Brady.
Fair enough. I don't think last year Andrew Luck was barely a QB1 in 12-team leagues. Luckily Eli Manning was not. Otherwise, that would have been weird. But yeah, Luck is a great quarterback, and he's not great at fantasy. In 2 QB leagues, he's fantastic. You're right. Not a 2 QB league.
I'm just so used to 2
change the rules
QB
to a 2
frame
QB league because I've got Tom Brady and Matt Ryan.
Makes it more fun.
I'm gonna have to trade you for a QB, maybe.
I have Russell Wilson, who I might end up starting, actually, and Andrew Luck. So you can have one of those.
Actually, that might be better for me, because I need to trade for backup. I'm going to start Matt Stafford, so I'm going to probably trade for Russell Wilson. I don't know, I got a bunch of players, you probably like them.
I
got
like
T.Y.
my
Hilton.
team, kind of. I like Antonio Brown a lot.
That's what I need.
Fancy.
Need a running back.
Everyone needs a running back. I've got like 6. I don't know how many of them will play. Auto draft.
That was funny. I thought you knew.
I mean, I remember the invite, and then I didn't do anything about it. Y'all didn't tell me I was on auto draft. God.
Let's put it this way.
Well, I invited you
what-
because you're in the league. I invited everyone in the league to the hangout tonight, and no one else was able to get on because Sean said that he was running on like 4 hours of sleep and looked terrible. And the other ones
Whatever,
didn't have
man.
video.
Whatever,
Man, I never
John.
sleep, and I always look terrible. This is not an excuse.
But anyway, what I was saying is that tomorrow, and maybe I'll start working on
You've
it
got
tonight.
4
after
running backs,
this.
and not a single one's good.
I am going to
Six running backs and not a
redo
single
my last year. In case you didn't know, I did national third down conversion percentages for all of the college quarterbacks, which I think is very important. And
That translates pretty well from what I've read.
And I'm hoping to do it again this year. Although the sample size is going to be really small for the first few weeks, it'll still be fun.
Yeah, no. Third down percentage is one of the college stats that tends to at least correlate a little bit with production.
I think I'm probably also going to introduce touchdown percentage minus interception percentage into
Yeah, I don't know about that.
that as well. But we'll see.
More than third down percentage, I'm worried that that's subject to systemic concerns. Just in general. I don't know. I don't know that much about translating college stats to NFL stats. I'm worried about touchdown and interception percentage, though. Not as worried about third down percentage. Oh, Alex Smith. He's on the waiver wire. I could pick him up.
He just got a lot of money. I was reading.
Yeah, when Alex Smith is your best fantasy option, you're gonna have a bad time.
I need a backup quarterback. I didn't draft one because auto draft.
I mean, I've been keeping up with my Uncle Chap, so I know the news.
Well, let's see. So I'm just taking a look at my running backs. Oh, you're right. They are bad.
Yeah, you've got like 8 running backs and they all suck.
Hey, Matt Forte is not going to be bad.
Okay, so you've got 8 running backs and 5 of them suck.
Yeah, that's true.
I've got 4 running backs and they all suck, but at least one of them is going to get 1,000 yards. Maybe. Stephen
Hey, man,
Rivers.
I feel like starting Jermaine Kearse against Green Bay is going to be a really sneaky good move. Green Bay's secondary sucks.
I think you might be outsmarting yourself.
Well, I can't start Bo because he's suspended.
Still might be outsmarting yourself.
Think kick returner.
Sure you don't want Kyrie Robinson?
I think I'm good, but if we're just going to talk
Remember
about
that colonoscopy
advanced
last
wrestling,
year?
I think it might be time to call it a night.
Yeah, this is a terrible.
Yeah,
Kvetching
we'll
Draftniks.
have a better hangout some other time.
This is the worst hangout.
Unless we want to talk about how Michael Sam did not get signed to the Rams practice squad, which that could be a whole other conversation.
I have a sneaking suspicion he winds up in Atlanta tomorrow, but
I mean, from
Really?
what I've heard, first of all, I think that if he doesn't end up on any practice squad, that would be something where I'd say it doesn't look very good on a lot of people. Because if you watch any of the preseason games, he actually looked better than a lot of the other players who have made practice squads and who are eligible.
And he looked better in a way that's sustainable. He didn't just get production for production's sake. I thought he looked good in a way that, from a technique perspective, was good.
And I would agree with that. I think I'm actually kind of happy that he's not going to go back to St. Louis because I think it would look kind of weird if the same coach brought him back he's asking for a favor or something like that. I think it makes sense for him to go to another team. Atlanta would make a lot of sense. I know that he was meeting
Dallas?
with Fisher today. I think that part of the issue, though, and I was talking about this with, I don't know if you guys follow Lindsay Adler on Twitter. She's a sports writer at Vice. And Vice is actually doing some really cool stuff in sports.
I have no idea who she
know
is.
that. But we had a really good conversation this morning, and we both agreed, basically this entire issue, it's so dumb because one of the players in the league who already is open to their locker room should just come out publicly and it wouldn't be an issue anymore. And I think that there is a conversation to be had over whether or not, and this is something that I know
honestly,
I've had this conversation with people about it before. If you have a certain means or if you have a certain amount of influence, whether or not it becomes a responsibility for you if you are gay to come out of the closet publicly.
Man, I am so uncomfortable with
Which I feel like
delegating responsibilities for people
I'm
to come
very
out.
uncomfortable with it as well, and as are a lot of other people. But I do think that I think that there's an argument to say that there is some sort of responsibility there. Because then this issue wouldn't be happening, and it wouldn't be an issue anymore.
Well, obviously, I
have did it.
A significantly smaller stake than someone like you does, but I feel like if the point is the ability to express your identity and disclose yourself to the world, and a way to remove yourself from all of the problems of hiding yourself, I think related to that issue is the ability to choose how you want to express yourself to the world around you, and so adding a positive obligation to come out is always a little bit uncomfortable, especially because obviously there's the historical fear of reprisal and stuff like that. I think it would be a good thing if someone came out, but I wouldn't say it's their responsibility to. It's just like, I don't think anyone is supposed to at this point. I just say it would be a good thing, it would be brave, and it would probably affect positive change.
I think if Kerry Rhodes had come out when that thing came out, people would have been like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that would have been
over.
I think he'd still have a job. I honestly do. I think that's what teams do.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I kind of want to know what happened with the Patriots, because he was in talks with them, and then the talks broke down or something.
I mean, I don't think that the issue with the Patriots... I mean, they were looking at all safeties, and they just sort of like their young players better, I think.
Oh, okay.
But the thing with the Patriots is that they had from what I know, within the past few years, they've had a gay player in the locker room who was open about it. I don't think that he was there for that long, but I don't think it was an issue.
Yeah, I mean,
the thing, like, there are a lot of players who have already done this, and they just don't. It's just not public because they don't want to make it public, which is fine. It's their prerogative, but some people sort of think like if someone were to just do it, like would it change things for them? Yes, but it would take this issue and just like eliminate it, and it wouldn't be an issue anymore. And it's just like part of the issue also is the media, which hasn't helped matters, especially with that stupid shower. Somebody on Twitter actually just said, and they're completely right, that the Rams leaked this info to the NFL Network because they're not leaking to ESPN anymore because they're mad about the shower story.
That makes perfect sense.
But because that was completely outside you don't talk about that. It's stupid. But just like it just doesn't. It does make sense to me. I mean, I think that from what I saw from Sam, he will end up on a team, on a practice squad. I think that it would be nicer if somebody would have just helped him along so he didn't have to face it by himself.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He has. So I'm hoping that next year there will be more players who decide to do it as well, but we will see about that because, I mean, I knew of Sam like 6 months before he came out. I don't know of any other players, so.
One team that I think would probably be a pretty good addition, or we're saying would probably be a pretty good addition, the Dallas Cowboys, right? I think that he's... No?
No, here's the thing. I've heard for months that the Cowboys were looking at Sam. I now believe that there is a voice in that locker room who has pretty much said that he doesn't want to do it. So we'll see. I think it makes too much sense because I've been saying even as recently as like here, like that it makes too much sense and that it could happen. And I think that there are people in the organization who want it to happen, but I also think that there are others in that organization in particular, and maybe a couple of others as well, who are very vociferously against that happening because they don't want the distraction which sucks because it shouldn't be that way. But even though like people make fun of the distraction dialogue, and I think to an extent within the locker room it's not a big deal, I think that the well-intentioned people outside the locker room are making it into a big deal, which then hurts the case within the locker room.
I mean, that's not a huge freaking track. It's just like just looking at the I mean, their practice squad currently has one pass rusher. It's Kenneth Boatwright, who had a good preseason, I guess, but he's not particularly interesting or special. Like
I
as
mean,
a
I
pass
think
rusher.
that the Jets would make a lot of sense. I think that the Falcons, as Scott said, would make a lot of sense. But if you think about it, all these teams had a ton of day 3 picks that didn't use one on Sam, and they picked other pass rushers instead.
Well, Atlanta picked after Sam already was off the clock, and then they picked Tyler Starr.
But
So it wouldn't shock me
you
if they
also
brought
picked Shembo
Tyler
before
Starr.
Sam.
Shembo was taken as an inside linebacker, not as an outside linebacker.
That's true. Although was
So-
he and Spruill both taken as inside linebacker?
Yeah, he and Spruill were taken as inside linebackers.
Sproul's injured now, right?
Yeah, Spruill's got a torn ACL.
And he was
Ooh.
awful before then too. Scott would agree, right? He was awful.
There was no reason for them to take him where they took him. He was an undraftable player from what I saw. So when they took him, I was like, why did they bring this guy in? Like, if they were still running a pure 4-3, it would make perfect sense because he would be a good fit for that. Like, if you put him in like a Levante David role and let him learn for like 3 years how to do it, he might be able to do it. But that's too much investment for the guy.
It was so just to move this terrible discussion along. Who else would be a decent fit? Just because it's an interesting conversation topic for Sam. Like,
I mean,
just
part
as a
of my
practice
issue
runner.
is that I feel like I don't know what the Rams are seeing if they think that Sam played worse than Westbrook's at NASCAR tackle. Is from what I saw, Sam forced 2 sacks when he was playing at defensive tackle.
I hear the Rams think very highly of Pro Football Focus. That might be why.
That is true. And Westbrook's, I mean, to his credit, Westbrook's, as I said, all the Ethans in the NFL, good thing. And Westbrook's was a beast whenever I watched him. He definitely deserved to make the team. But he wasn't as good at tackle as Sam was when I watched him.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him go to Detroit.
I was just thinking
He's
Detroit.
not going to Detroit.
What?
He's not going to Detroit. I would take any team with a Tony Dungy-connected coach off of the
Oh,
list.
God, that's true.
And I've met Caldwell before. He's a nice guy, but he totally buys into the Tony Dungy sort of mindset. Tampa Bay is off the list as well.
No Tampa Bay then, right?
Pittsburgh would make sense then.
Pittsburgh, maybe, but I don't
what
think
about
he could actually. Pittsburgh could make some sense.
You got
if they
Arthur
decide to
Moat,
do it.
Jarvis Jones, and Jason Worrells as their outside linebackers.
And they just cut Chris Carter.
what about Tennessee? Are they
that would be
too
interesting.
classically
Portland-
3-4? Because I don't
They
buy
were-
their ability.
Portland runs the unbalanced 3-4,
Yeah.
where basically his weak side linebacker is a blitzer every play.
Yeah.
It's just a stand-up end.
Yeah.
The funny
So-
thing is that I think across in that division, I think Indy would make a lot of sense too.
Actually, that's true.
And I've
They're a
heard
bit
that
more traditional in their 3-4, aren't they, under Maniski?
I've heard that a lot of people seem to think that locker room would be good for Sam. I don't know why. Well, I might know why, but I've heard that a lot of people like that locker room for Sam, which didn't make sense to me when I first thought it, because I thought that they were a very sort of like religious locker room, but apparently that's not the case.
That might be just a carryover from the Tony Dungy days.
It might
Well,
be.
It might just be.
No, Grigson mentioned it specifically when he said he was building a team with guys with like a very strong religious background.
Also a terrible GM, so.
He is a
Well,
bad GM.
The Falcons would be good in that respect because they're just, are you a
Yeah,
good
they'd agree with
person?
Yeah,
I'll
no,
be
the Falcons
honest.
would be great for that. Seattle
Are
obviously would be
you
great
a
for that.
good
But they're...
person, and can you play football? That's all they care about.
All I know is that Brian Cox would coach Michael Sam so hard.
that would be
I
great.
wouldn't
I'd
want
love
Hard
it.
Knocks to continue just because of that.
That would be fantastic.
I
But
can
no,
continue
that would be an
to-
interesting fit because from what I heard, at Missouri, Craig Kuligowski coached Sam pretty hard.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's as hard as what's his name would go, Cox.
Cox?
Cox would go.
Well, from my understanding, Sam responds to that kind of coaching really well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's how his coaches were at.
Yeah. At Mizzou.
Yeah. Mizzou.
So Seattle would be interesting, right? Because they lost their potential practice squad pass rusher, Mayowa. What's that?
I don't think he'd go to Seattle. I don't think they don't like him. He's not smart.
Oh yeah, he's not smart. That's true. Man.
I think San Francisco might make sense. I've heard that that's a locker room where, first of all, it's a locker room where they take chances on people. They took a chance on Jonathan Martin, who, by the way, is going to start for them this year, in case you didn't know, which is kind of weird.
Fair.
But they also they have a weird locker room dynamic. I don't know if it would be great for him. Mike LeChance brought up the Browns on my Twitter. That would actually make some sense. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I could see Pettin going for that. They're not someone who anyone's talked about, but I could see that.
Pettin in the mold of Rex Ryan, that makes a lot of sense. I like that.
There was another team on the top. Oh, the funny thing is, a team that I think could actually use him is the Panthers, who took his teammate who's worse than him.
Coney?
Yeah, he's been awful. If one of those ones has been awful in the preseason, Coney has been terrible.
I'll take your word for it, but I'm also going to take a look at, let's see. Pro Football Focus, who Minnesota fans have been able to discuss a lot because of Mike Zimmer. Pro Football Focus said that Coney Ealy's preseason is about exactly average, which is kind of surprising. It's because of his run defense, which is what he's known for. It's weird to me because they have him as identical to Willie Young, whose preseason I think has been a lot better in fewer snaps.
Well, we can talk. If we want to switch conversation topics, because honestly, I think a lot of the Sam stuff is done to death. We'll see where it ends up tomorrow, maybe. But let's talk about Pro Football Focus and about why Mike Zimmer was completely correct in what he said. I don't know Chris Thomason. I'm guessing RF does. I read the article that he wrote. That article was stupid. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
No, it was a dumb article.
No, I'm not going to defend it.
Here's the thing. You don't use statistics without context. You can't do that. That's not how they work. I mean, the ratings Pro Football Focus uses, I know they put a lot of work into it. I appreciate the effort they put into it. I don't put any stock in them whatsoever. I'm just going to be honest.
Whatsoever. I think that's an overreaction.
Because it's subjective, and some of them are skewed to certain teams having higher grades than other teams. We have seen that in the past.
It does have a bit of bias in it, and that drives me crazy because every Falcons game, the day after, they're rated pretty well. And then 3 days later, everybody has minus 2 full points on their grades. And you're just like, what the hell?
Double check it. But it's all subjective anyway, and even though, I think, was it you who responded to it? No, it was Doug Farrar, who said that, part of what Pro Football Focus's defense was that you kind of know what's going to happen on a given play every time, someone drops back. It's not as hard as the NFL makes it seem.
Yeah,
I understand that, and I kind of agree with it. I just don't think that the watchers that they are employing necessarily, I don't trust them. Because we don't know who they are, for the most part.
Well,
I know Steve Palazzolo. I don't know any of the other guys.
So in regards to that, I think there's a couple of things. First, I think that, I think we can all agree that the way the NFL is sold, there's a little bit too much credence given to you don't know what's happening on plays, what the play calls are. I think they're right and that you're right that for the vast majority of plays, it's actually pretty simple to figure out what all 11 responsibilities are, even when you get into complex pattern matching schemes and things like that. The second thing is the people I don't trust at Pro Football Focus are also the people that do not often hand out the grades. They're the people that do player participation data and stuff like that. People like Sam Monson, for example, he does a lot of the Vikings games. He does a very, very good job. He's also, really knowledgeable, and I guess he still plays football in Ireland right now. But he does a pretty good job. Usually you can figure out which particular analysts are good based off of the work that they produce, off of the grading that they do. So Sam Monson's very good. Khaled's very good. Neil, Steve is great. Neil, who owns the company, is all right. He's not as good as many of his employees, which is fine.
He's the businessman behind the whole thing, though.
He is, but he's the one who started tracking way back in, like, 2008. He was, like, the first one to track, and it turns out that while he has a gift for detail, I don't think he's as strong in terms of analysis as some of these other graders. So for the Vikings, I would argue, for the most part, the grades are pretty accurate. I think the biggest issue I have with Pro Football Focus, and, obviously when I say the word accurate, I don't know what that means because there's no objective standard that we can really evaluate it by. I think that the biggest problem I have with Pro Football Focus is that they don't do what Keaton does, which is to watch the plays where cornerbacks and safeties are not targeted and provide some context for that, because I think at that point you become too dependent on the outcomes provided by the opponent to determine talent, which is fine. That's not what they're trying to do, but the way that they're sold is that they try to determine talent, when really all they do is micrograde outcomes. And I think that that's super useful, and I think that that's fine. But they're not a talent evaluation company. They've never sold themselves as talent evaluation, but the way the statistics are used are as talent evaluation, as opposed to, micrograding, outcomes, which are subjective, but are probably not too controversial in their individual, in individual terms. The way that Thomason used it in that article, I think, was problematic because he implied pretty heavily. First it was written poorly, but he's not a very good writer. But it implied, that the way that Pro Football Focus grades games is the way that coaches should grade games, or that it is a consistent, repeatable thing that you can consistently judge. I think the one thing that I think is really useful for Pro Football Focus is taking a look at the extremes at either end. Because it is highly unlikely that a player at the extreme of either end of their positional grading group is not very, very good or very, very bad based on that extreme. It's extraordinarily unlikely that the way that their subjective grades break down runs completely counter to sort of the way that the actual performance is, however you want to take a look at actual performance. I think that there's a lot of really good, useful stuff. I think it's just not a Bible. That's all.
Well, here's the thing I disagree with. People don't realize that it's a composite of pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
It's not this is the grade for the player overall. This is how he played in that game total. He could have been just average, like not good, not bad, every single play but one, and got destroyed on one play and still got a -2 on the entire game.
Yeah.
That's what people don't realize. And they also factor in potential. Which is why I'm sitting here thinking, Lamar Holmes has potential if they move him out of that position to right tackle, put a good right guard next to him. And people are like, well, his Pro Football Focus grade is -30. Well, yeah, at left tackle where nobody should have put him in the first place.
Yeah, and I think when people bring up Pro Football Focus as an argument, when you make a point or you advocate something in terms of the way that the football game should break down or the way that the team should be run. I think when people bring up Pro Football Focus as an argument against what you're saying, I think that it's useful to have a dialogue about why the outcomes that the player put on the field would be solved by whatever advocacy that you have. I think that's a good conversation to have. I think that the people who are unmoved by your reasonings as to why the Pro Football Focus grade does not reflect the use value of a player, those people are horseshit and are not useful to have conversations with. But I think it's useful to describe why a set of outcomes are happening the way that they are.
I'm going to be honest, I only use Pro Football Focus for the statistics.
You mentioned this before. I think
really like, because I think that, and I'd be interested to hear how you guys use it too, But I think the statistics for the most part are pretty good because they are tracking outcomes, and it isn't hard to tell like if someone gives them a pressure or if someone gives them a hurry. It's a little bit subjective, but I feel like it's easier to tell that than to like say this is why the run got blown up or this is why this happened. I think it's a little bit easier to sort of like understand like without sort of like the point plus minus context. So that's sort of where I think Pro Football Focus is very useful. I wish that they pumped their stats up more than their rankings because I think the stats are actually very interesting because you're not going to get one catch-all number for anything. It's unhealthy to sort of perpetuate that you can judge someone based on one number unless you're able to sort of like create something that is mathematically based, which the grading system is not and has been implied to be in the past. So I just sort of think that they should just rethink about how they market. And whenever I use Pro Football Focus, I always sort of like make it clear I'm using the statistics, I'm not using the ranking. The ranking, as you said, is good to sort of see extremes, but that isn't how you should be grading players because that's not how anyone would ever grade a player in reality. Because you can't do outcome-based grading. You do outcome-based evaluation, but you can't do like outcome-based, this is sort of how good the player is.
For me,
technique.
Yeah.
There's
They
no number for technique. Like, oh, hey, this guy got beat, but he had good pad level, he had this. The reason why he got beat was because the other player was just better. Like J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
When you put Mahomes against J.J. Watt, he's going to get destroyed. It's just what happens.
Yeah, I think so. A couple of things about that. The first is that it would be really easy for them to find a way to correct for basically strength of opponent or strength of assignment. Generally speaking, you have a good idea going into a Houston Texans game that whoever's lining up against J.J. Watt's probably going to have a bad time. And the grades, genuinely reflect that, pretty often. And I think that mathematically, there's a bunch of really easy ways you can input, strength of schedule in terms of how it affects a particular player and a particular position. But beyond that, I think the way that I use Pro Football Focus, I like the statistics a lot. Ethan, one of the things that they talk about in terms of the grades is that they like the grades more, in part because of the very thing that you said, which is that the grades to them are the context for the statistics. So often, for example, they'll give up, they'll assign a cornerback or a safety a coverage given up on a target, when they'll also argue that corner or safety wasn't at fault for a reception or didn't make a bad play, and so they won't grade them negatively, even though the way that statistic tends to break down is often negative, right? Because you don't want to give up receptions. So there's that. But I think more than that, for me, I always, whenever I do a breakdown, the first thing I take a look at is the Pro Football Focus grade for a player. Either I'm breaking down an individual player, so I'll look at the player's games to identify which games to them were the best and which one were the worst, so I can create at least some extremes in terms of the film that I'll break down. The second is that it allows me to get a general sense of strengths and weaknesses of an opponent. So if I'm putting together a game plan, right, and I see that Chad Greenway is terrible in coverage, I'll take particular attention to that when I take a look at the one or two games that I'll give myself to look at a player, and knowing where I should put my eyes on the field, I think is super valuable, and I think that the Pro Football Focus grades do that a little bit better than their statistics do.
I think that's fair. I think one thing that would be really cool is if, and PFF's getting so big that maybe they could do this, I would love to see integration with Game Pass or Game Rewind, so that way you can sort of see on the play, this is the grade that was given for this player's play, and then you could sort of go through it and confirm by yourself.
I would love
be interesting to sort of see that integration.
Technically very, very difficult to do.
I would love for them to release their play breakdowns. As part of that money that we're paying, we should be able to see that. Because I want to see, hey, they gave this guy a negative 1.0 in coverage when he dropped back, played his zone, and the guy got just past his zone and the safety wasn't there. I'd like to see that on a cover sheet. So I can sit there and go, he was playing cover 2. He's not supposed to drop back farther than, 10 yards, and this guy was in the 15-yard pocket in the seam. How's that his fault? When the safety couldn't get over there. That should be the safety get the negative 1, not the corner.
Yeah,
So,
I think that that's fair, and I think that to some degree we have a right to figure out why a grade is a certain way. If you email them, they'll break down specific plays for you, and I've done that a lot. For the most part, I don't think they do a bad job of that particular problem of like breaking down a coverage assignment. So when the safety doesn't rotate over in enough time, and it looks like the person closest to the play is at fault for the reception, when really they're trying to make up for poor coverage rotation on like a zone. For the most part, they do a pretty good job. For the Vikings, it was a little bit easier to break down because their coverage schemes were pretty vanilla over the past 2 years, pretty easy to predict. But I got into this argument about this is one specific play that Chris Cook gave up a touchdown to Martellus Bennett against Chicago with like 3 seconds left to go in the game. And everyone was blaming Chris Cook, and I took a look at the play, and it was actually probably Harrison Smith's fault because of the way the coverage broke down. And so I was looking at the play, and I tried to diagram it out, and take a look at everything that was happening, one of the things I did is I took a look at Pro Football Focus to see sort of what they had in regards to that, and they had Chris Cook giving up the reception, and so I emailed them and I was like, well, that's actually not very fair. He was doing a good thing. He happened to be there, and he just didn't get the job done, which is fine. He had to recover because he was trying to cover the inside receiver, who was Earl Bennett, which actually made the discussion very difficult because he had to cover Martellus Bennett on the outside. But he was covering Bennett, and then he had to cover Bennett, and it didn't work out, and that wasn't his fault. And so I emailed them, and I think it was Neil who got back to me, but Neil had already concluded all of that. Well before I emailed him, and that was probably one of the more difficult breakdowns in terms of delegating responsibility and blame, and they did a pretty good job of it. So I think that for the most part, in terms of the things that they could get wrong, that I think a typical film watcher would get wrong, I shouldn't say typical film watcher, someone who is relatively new at watching film or is not that familiar with football would get wrong. I think that that's not something that they generally get wrong, but again, I agree with Scott that it would be really, really nice to be able to see a lot more of why a grade breaks down a particular way. And it's also just like a lot of work to email them.
Right. Not just why it breaks down a particular way, just why, like, what the grade is for each play. Because I like to go back and see. Because there are some plays where you might have a guy get responsibility attached, like protections.
Yeah, no, protections are a big one.
If a protection is poorly called by the center, it should reflect on the center, but it doesn't.
I was actually going to bring that up. Centers are probably one of the grades that they do poorly.
Well, here's the thing. Peter Kahns will point to the left on one play, and then Matt Ryan will point to the right, identifying the mic. So you got 2 different protection calls. Half the line goes one way, the other half goes the other way, and the guy comes right up the middle to smack Matt Ryan. That's what was happening early in 2013. They pull Kahns, they put Holly in, they're both pointing at the same guy now, and the protections are good. Amazing. Amazing how a center can change that one little thing. That's what I'm saying. Little things like that might be an intricacy of the game, but that's a big part of keeping your quarterback upright. And
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. They don't do center grades correctly because of it.
Like, I don't think, well, and that's the thing, I don't think Pro Football Focus is great on grading centers. They grade them basically like a third guard as opposed to, hey, this guy has way more responsibility than you give him credit for.
I've actually been working a little bit on that. I abandoned it because of training camp, but before training camp started, I was working on seeing if I could find a way to adjust the Pro Football Focus grade for the number of unblocked rushers or pressures that the line gave up, and not to give them credit for every sack, hit, or hurry that happened, but to give them generic credit for unblocked rushers and what you would call protection failures. There's probably some interesting math behind it. It, of course, would be very rough. It would not be very good on a particular level. I think over the course of a season, it would be kind of good. It also obviously depends on how the quarterback calls protections. But there's ways to do it that I think are more accurate, even if the process by which to get them more accurate is like kind of distasteful, which is to discredit the center for basically every protection breakdown. But I think that's useful, and I think that you're right that a big job of the center because of the way that the center operates is not simply as a third guard.
Yeah, it's not a third guard, and that's really the way they treat him. And you're just like, well, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. And I'm not a huge fan of how they do special teams, but I'd like to see.
I've talked to them about it. They are not fans of how they do special teams either, actually.
Okay, because I was a former, like, that was the one thing I did in high school when I played, was I was the gunner. It's like, that was the fun part for me. And people don't realize that if a gunner runs the wrong way, that's worse than missing a tackle. And
because he can't squeeze him. Like, they've been in discussions over the past 2 years with special teams coaches in the NFL specifically to address their special teams grading. They're still not happy with it, but they've improved their punter grading. So that's something about it. They will not stand by any punter grading between 2007 and 2011, or probably 2012. They should probably tell people that, in my opinion. They don't tell people that. But when you email them, they'll be like, yeah, we're not particularly standing by those punter gradings. But from here on out, they're very happy with the way that they're going to be grading punters because of conversations they've had with multiple punters around the league.
Well, they should probably. Well, that's probably why they like Matt Bosher and why, Matt Miller doesn't like Matt Bosher. Because Bosher's big on corner punts and kicking it out at like the 5 or the 8 in that range, and Matt Miller just doesn't like it. He's like, well,
Really?
he doesn't boom at 60 yards every play, even though he can. He's got one of the strongest legs in the league. The Falcons' offense is always at midfield when he's kicking a punt, so he wants to see more hang time. Well, Bosher's just trying to corner it and kick it out.
I don't think Matt Miller cares that much about Matt Bosher. I think that probably he looks at a couple of games because he should, and then he sees, oh, he seems like a pretty normal punter, and then he looks at the averages and he's like, oh, okay, I'll put him here.
Yeah, it's probably
that's probably the smart way to do it. I mean, he's a punter, like. Yeah.
I'm like super interested in the way that special teams works out. I don't know why. It's like I'm fascinated with it.
I love special teams. I'm one of the few people out here who's like, yeah, special teams. Like, I think special teams should be, like, people always give a lot of teams flack because they take special teams players and make them a little bit more important than your standard, like, I don't know, regular guy.
Yeah.
Belichick does that all the time.
Belichick.
We have like 2 players who literally are just special teamers. They don't play on any other snaps. All they do is special teams. Matt Slater, who's a Pro Bowler, and Nate Ebner,
who's Nate Ebner?
Is a rugby player.
That's actually really smart.
Fun fact about Matt Slater: he was drafted in the 5th round of the 2008 NFL Draft, one of only 2 players left from that draft on the Patriots still with Gerard Mayo. He was drafted in the 5th round because the Patriots had a Steve Tasker grade on him as a gunner.
Whew.
They thought they could be the best gunner since Steve Tasker. And you know what? He's made like 3 Pro Bowls. He's really good. It might not be wrong about that.
That's kind of hilarious.
Was he worth a 5th round pick?
He's a gunner.
Not to every coach. He's a gunner.
Is he listed as a wide receiver?
Pick on a gunner.
Yeah.
I would spend a 7th round pick on a gunner. But I would never spend.
There was a 6th round pick too, but I think he's more of like a. I don't remember exactly what the term is, but he's not a gunner. He's like an interior type guy. But he's really good too. But he's not Slater.
Yeah. I know. I sort of like how the Vikings arrange their special teams. Yeah, homophobia aside, I think that the way that they engage in special teams design is pretty phenomenal. Because there's a lot of interesting things to break down if you break down special teams from Vikings games in terms of the way that they set up their blocks and create lanes. It's like kind of unique because they try to create these angles that special teams guys are not used to when they're going in kickoff coverage, which is why, which is part of the reason that Cordero Patterson has the latitude to return it from 9 yards deep in the end zone The other part of it is because Patterson's like really immature and he would do it anyway.
So they said,
Was he fun to hang with? Was he a cool guy?
He's so fun. He's so weird. I love it. He's like the most harmlessly weird football player that I've personally met. It's great.
They said that about him on the Tennessee campus too.
Sounds like Dominique Easley to me. He's also harmlessly weird.
Yeah. That and Bobby Wagner, I think, is also like the same kind of guy. But yeah, no, he's super fun. But yeah, no, the Viking special teams unit.
That kind of guy.
What?
Joe Hawley is a harmlessly weird kind of guy, only with that Greg Maddux style frat boy notation. You hear about what Greg Maddux used to do in the clubhouse?
No, tell me.
Pranks.
Greg Maddux used to take actual human fecal matter and put it in Bobby Cox's shoes if it was a game they didn't like. He used to mess with Javi Lopez in any way he could because he just didn't like Javi Lopez. That's why Javi Lopez never caught for him, because he thought Javi was an idiot. He would do like he would pull the valve stems out of a tire every now and again, so the other guy would be like, "What the hell happened to my tire?" Because when you do that, it drains out. Like he was a frat boy.
I'd love to hang out with Maddox. I bet that
the best one that I saw.
Frat boy on Google, and you'll be like, "Holy crap, this guy's an asshole."
Did you ever see the Jeff Francoeur prank that the San Diego Padres farm team did on him recently? Where
that's compared to what
they literally made him believe that one of the players on the team was blind, right? Was it blind or deaf?
Oh,
deaf.
yeah.
Yeah, deaf. It was amazing.
And then the guy was like, "I'm not deaf, dude. I hear everything you say."
Yeah.
That was great. Oh man, Vikings have outlawed pranks at training camp for the past couple of years. It's kind of boring.
Really?
Apparently, Zach Moore from Concordia in Minnesota.
Yeah, Concordia St. Paul.
Has endeared himself to Bill Belichick because he imitated him in the Rookie Talent Show, and then also when the Patriots did the ice bucket challenge, Zach Moore was the one who got to pour the ice on Belichick's head.
Oh, cool. That's going to be a productive relationship for months to come.
Though. I'm happy he made it. He was good when I watched him.
Yeah, I don't know how to evaluate small school guys, but
we sort of asked this question earlier and never really answered it. Who have been players this preseason who you saw who you were just like, wow, he looks awful? Anyone, any team.
Matt Khalil.
Stone of the Falcons.
Who?
Yeah.
James Stone. I wasn't a fan of his in college, but when I saw him playing football this summer, and I say that kind of in like a playing football kind of way, he just way too widespread, doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Again, one of those guys that you look at him and you're like, why is he in the NFL? Who the hell thought it was a good idea? And then he somehow makes the roster, and you're just like, how did this guy make the roster? Like, Matt Khalil, I can understand why he made the roster. He looked really good his first 2 seasons in the league.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, he probably just was having trouble. He might have, like, an injury you don't know about or something crazy like that. You know how those USC offensive players are. They might have some injury you don't know about. But, come on, man. James Stone is awful.
Now, I'm going to say, there are a lot of Patriots who I can mention. Jordan Devey, how did you make the team? Chris Barker, how did you make the team? Chris White, he got cut today, so we're good there. But Curtis Marsh, I liked him coming out of Utah State as a cornerback. I think that the Patriots threw 4 touchdown passes at him when they played in the preseason.
Jesus.
He got destroyed by Brady and by Jimmy.
Desmond Southworth looked better at safety than that guy did.
Desmond Southworth has looked better than expected, right? or not?
I have not expected him to look as good as he has. I'll put it that way. Now he's still
He's from Wisconsin, right?
yeah, he's still like 2 years out from not 2 years out, like 2014, halfway through 2015, he should be ready, kind of thing. But he's looked way better. And you know who else has looked really surprisingly good? Your boy Ethan, Kamal Me Ishmael.
Oh, Kamal Me Ishmael. Is he going to start?
He might. If Lowry has another head injury, Kamal Ishmael is going to take over and be that guy.
He's
I have no qualms about it.
He's one of the best tacklers I've seen at safety in a while.
It's not just that. He's a really good safety too. Like he's not afraid to hit somebody as a just come up and hit him kind of guy. But he's solid in coverage, and the mistakes he made in his first action in the first week of the season, he hasn't made since. Like the coverages, because I mean he's a 7th-round guy. He's gonna blow some coverages. But the coverages he blew that first week of the preseason, he never blew again. There was never any issues. I think he's going to be the long-term starter at free safety if Desmond Southwood doesn't work out.
Yeah, I like him too.
I think he's a short-term starter if Dwight Lowery has another head injury in 2 weeks. Because I feel like he gets a head injury every other week.
Which team do you think is going to have the number 1 pick next year?
That's tough. Oakland?
I'm going to go with Houston.
I can't see that happening twice in a row.
You're right, because the football gods would go, you tried this and you failed. You don't deserve Marcus Mariota. You don't deserve Christian Hackenberg. We're going to give you the 6th pick, so you can't get either guy. And you can't get Jameis Winston. You can't get any of these guys. So you're going to get the 6th pick in back-to-back years because you tried to be fancy and take J.D. Clowney. And Clowney puts you in purgatory. Congratulations.
I like the Mallet trade today, by the way. If we're talking about a trade that happened, I like that trade for them. All they need is a quarterback who probably won't turn the ball over. And I don't think Mallet is going to throw a ton of interceptions unless he gets really unlucky and a bunch of balls just sail over the heads of his receivers.
Because he doesn't have touch.
The quarterback is going to occasionally make some plays. Their defensive front, no one's going to run on them. I mean, their pass defense isn't amazing, but they're going to get so much pressure that their defense could carry it.
Yeah, I think their defense will be good enough to secure them enough wins to be not the bottom pick. So...
I have in terms of my bottom picks, I have an obvious one and a sleeper. I guess my
sleeper bottom pick.
Yeah, just because I don't think that they're going to be that bad, but I could see them being that bad, and if they are, it would be akin to Houston this year. I guess that the more typical one that I could see being really bad is that I have absolutely no faith in the Cleveland Browns to do anything good this year whatsoever.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I think that division. I think Pittsburgh could bounce back a little bit from last year. And Baltimore isn't great, but I think Cincinnati could end up getting a bye. I think Cincinnati could be better than Denver in terms of record this year. I think Cincinnati could get the 1 or 2 in the AFC. Yeah.
Better than Denver?
I think that,
they lost Magic Mike. They lost Mike Zimmer.
The top 3 teams in the AFC are Denver, Cincy, New England in some order to me. And I think Cincy has the easiest schedule. So I think that Cincinnati could take one of the byes and get a lot of wins. They could be. I could see them going. If you look at their schedule this year, I could see them go 14-2, 13-3 with the talent they have, even with Dalton at quarterback. And I don't even like Dalton that much, but
God, I hate
Hill Bernard. I like Jeremy Hill kind of in their offense, and they play the South this year, so they're going to have to face all of the crappy AFC South teams. And they get the Panthers and I believe the Falcons at home. And they have to go to the Saints and the Bucks. I think that they can go 3-1 in those games. They get the Broncos at home. They get the Patriots on the road. But they beat the Patriots last year. So that's not a guaranteed win for the Patriots. And it's coming off a bye for the Bengals. So I could see them getting 13 or 14 wins this year if they get lucky. Now my sleeper team to be really bad, St. Louis without Sam Bradford could end up being really sneaky bad this year. Because I think Sean Hill is really bad.
Can you imagine
St.
that,
Louis.
Marcus Mariota?
And if they end up
Oh.
getting someone like Marcus Mariota,
Oh
they
man.
back into a top pick. It's like Indy, it's like Houston, it's like all these things.
Yeah. Well, so if they got Marcus Mariota, you'd want them to get rid of Schottenheimer, right?
I don't think Schottenheimer's an NFL coordinator, so, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I love Jeff Fisher as a person. I don't think he's a very good coach.
He's so overrated as a coach.
He's
knows
the Mike
ones-
Nolan of head coaches.
Jesus.
But if I'm gonna pick a sleeper pick to be the bottom overall pick, massive sleeper, wild guess, Baltimore Ravens.
Wow.
I think they obviously have excellent coaching. I think that the problem is with not just their depth, but I think that Joe Flacco, as inconsistent as he is looking worse. They don't have a running game. I don't think they're going to get that running game back. I don't think Ray Rice or Bernard Pierce looked any good. I think that their offensive line is questionable, very, very questionable. And they're relying, I think, too much on receivers that either will take too long to develop, like Michael Campanaro, or Torrey Smith, because I don't really think that Steve Smith is going to get anything back, although a quarterback like Joe Flacco is probably better for him. I think that defense is becoming overrated, which is not to say they're necessarily bad, but I think it can't carry an offense that has, I don't think, any weapons and a really inconsistent quarterback who's looked worse in this preseason and last year than he has in a while. So I think that there's a good chance, more than their projections, that they could be a bottom pick. I don't think they will be, but that is my sleeper. Got a bad offensive line.
That's not a bad choice.
Yeah, it's really not a bad choice.
Well, let's go quickly around the horn here, since it's getting pretty late. But previews are fun, so let's do quick preview. Playoff teams in each conference. AFC first. Scott, who are your 6 AFC playoff teams?
Ooh, that's gonna be fun. If I had to pick the East, you're gonna hate me, Ethan.
You did this last year, and I didn't hate you, so it's okay.
I'm gonna
You
say
pick
the
the
Jets.
Dolphins? Oh. Is Geno Smith going to put it back together?
I like the Jets this year, kind of. It's a thing.
I think they're gonna do the ground and pound. Basically base the offense off the running game. Not Geno Smith. Geno Smith has 2 good options at least, and then that defense is going to be nasty.
That's true. I think that defense.
All I know is
is
that you
really
picked the
good.
Bills to win it last year, so that should tell you how much.
There was so much reason to pick the Bills, though. I was totally behind the Bills as a sleeper pick last year. It made so much sense.
I knew. I was like, the Bills are trash. Scott can vouch for me. On the show when he made the pick, I was just like, the Bills are not very good this year.
Dude, their defense was so good last year. It was so good last
They
year.
had no offense. And
I mean, I think we assumed that Kevin Cobb wasn't going to get injured on a bath mat.
well, even without Kevin Cobb, who else do they have? Jeff Toole?
Or
EJ
EJ
Manuel?
Manuel.
They're all horrible.
And I didn't expect CJ Spiller to put together the shit show that he did.
Well, he's always been inconsistent. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying
I
the
like
Bills
Scott's
pick, I think,
track
makes
record of
sense.
picking against the Patriots. I'm just saying.
Okay, well, who are the rest of the AFC picks then?
All right, so I think the South's going to be won by Tennessee. Again, this all depends on Locker, but I think the South will be won by Tennessee. I think Pittsburgh takes the North again, and I think the West is Denver again. I think the Chargers get another wild card spot this year, and I think, don't crucify me if you're watching this Chiefs Twitter, but I think the Chiefs are more likely to get a top 10 pick than a playoff berth. Again, because of Alex Smith. The other wild card is going to be tough.
Is it going to be not the Pats?
Yeah, is it going to be not the Patriots? Please, keep it going.
Well, I mean, I could really see the Patriots not make the playoffs this year. And it's
All I'm
not
going to say is that's only happened once since 2003, and that was when Matt Castle was their quarterback.
You still
At
won
least
10 fucking games, dude.
5.
11.
11.
Only, we were like one of the only 11-5 teams to not make the playoffs.
Yeah, so now that wild card will be the Pats.
Scott's just like,
They're
I
going to
don't-
go 11-5.
Just like
They're
I
not
have
gonna
to.
win the division,
The AFC is shit. I have to pick the Pats.
but yeah, I have to. I don't want to. I just have to.
All right, well,
what
go
do you
through the
think?
NFC then. Or should I do the AFC
We'll
real
do
quick?
AFC first, and we'll switch.
All right. I don't think my picks are more chalk. I don't think that that's surprising. I have Pats winning their division. So the problem is that I think that the offense is going to regress. But I mean, I can't say anything about that defense because I think that Belichick knows how to put together a defense and he has an extraordinary amount of talent to do it this time. It's going to be difficult to pass. I think with run defenders like Ninkovich, it's going to be not as easy to run on them, and so I think that their defense will be actually what keeps them in games. And obviously, I think Tom Brady is regressing. I don't think that means he's bad. And so if you've got a good defense and a good quarterback, I think that you're going to win the division. Then I have, the AFC South is so stupidly difficult to pick because the Colts clearly have the worst roster. And I like the Jaguars a lot, but it doesn't mean I think that they're going to win anything. You know what? I think that that's
If the
schedule.
Jaguars start Bortles, they'll win the division.
What?
If the Jaguars start Bortles, they'll win the division.
I think that that's a pretty reasonable argument because that defense is going to be a lot better. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to pick the Jaguars to win the division because I can. I'll do that. I'm going to pick the Jaguars to win the division.
Pandering to Duval, RF.
Oh, whatever, man.
Pandering to Duval.
Jaguars win the division because they're only going to start Chad Henne for 2 games. They can take a 2-game loss in that division, I think.
Well, and the least.
Yeah, right? It's fine.
That's the who sucks the least division.
Yeah. And it's going to help because Clowney and Watt are going to take Luck out early so that the Colts have nothing. Then after that, I think for me, easy pick for the AFC North is the Bengals. I don't trust the Browns. I have the Ravens as my sleeper top pick, so I can't pick them. And I think the Steelers are not going to rebound as quickly as they should, although they're moving in the right direction. I think the AFC West is the Broncos, and I think the 2 wild cards are the Chargers and the Jets. Sorry, Colts.
I like that. I mean, as I said, my top 3 seeds in some order are the Broncos, Patriots, and Bengals. In the AFC South, I'm so conflicted because I like the Jaguars, but I think they're a year away, so that line is awful.
Yeah, but I mean, so was Seattle's.
That's true, but I don't like. Bortles isn't going to be.
Yeah.
He's good. He's shown up well in the preseason. I don't necessarily see it immediately translating the regular season. I also think that it's totally possible they end up playing the long game because Bradley seems to be very he's a really good leader, but he seems very stubborn. I don't think he's going to make the switch until it's clear that he has to make the switch, even if they're a couple of games in the hole by then. And I'm not sure Bortles is good enough to lead them to wins by himself yet. So the funny thing is, I think that with the trade today, the Texans are a sleeper to me in that division because that defense is going to be able to get after any quarterback. And they can stop anyone. My issue is that I feel like the best team in the division, if Jake Locker is healthy, is the Titans. Jake Locker will get injured within the first 4 games of the year, though. So I'm sort of in that bind where I want to pick one of the 3 teams, but I can't really decide which one to pick. So I'm
you'll
just
pick the
going to
Colts.
go for it. I'm going to say the Titans because in my hypothetical world, Jake Locker is healthy 100% of the season. And we're just going to put him in like a magical ice chamber after every game where he can heal all his injuries. So Titans for the AFC South. And then my wild card teams, the Chargers are definitely one. I think they're the 5th best team in the division. I mean, in the conference. I really like what Keenan Allen is going to turn into this year. And my second wild card, I really like the Steelers. I think that they had some issues last year, but to me, Shazier is going to play right away, and he's sort of brings a really nice intensity to that defense. I think that their linebackers can cover with anyone, which is huge in today's NFL. with Timmons and with Shazier. I really like what Antonio Brown brings to the table. He's one of my favorite receivers to watch. I think he was probably a top 3 receiver in football last year. So I got to go with the Steelers. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
I got to go with the Steelers. I think that they sneak that 60, especially as their schedule doesn't seem like it's that bad.
Their linebackers are good. I just don't trust their defensive line, and I don't trust their secondary at all. So I can't think of making an argument for them that revolves around the defense in any reasonable. I mean, yeah, I think Shazier's good. But the problem is, and Timmons is still good, and Worlds probably get some stuff done. But I mean that defensive line I think is bad. I don't think there's not like another way for me to look at it, and the secondary is also bad. So I just don't see them.
I feel like they have some nice pieces on the defensive line. I like Hayward. Everyone seems to be very sort of like ready for Cam Hayward to make the next step. I think Steve McClendon's very underrated. I think Cam Thomas is pretty good at the point of attack as well. And really what they need from the defensive line, they need to just hold up at the point of attack. They don't need to do anything crazy because they have pass rush to get after them. And at cornerback, I mean, yes, there are some issues there, but I think Cortez Allen is really underrated, Scott's guy. And Ike Taylor is a savvy veteran. I think this might be the year where they end up switching and Cortez plays more on the ones and Ike plays on the twos, which could help to improve them all around. But overall, I mean, a lot of the teams they seem to be facing have one really good receiver, and they can just sort of shade Polamalu over to that good receiver, and then otherwise they can sort of make do with Ike Taylor on the other one. So I think that they're going to be okay.
Yeah, that's a pretty good argument.
So NFC, super quick, and then we'll do Super Bowl picks, and then we'll go to bed.
Yep.
What do you think with the NFC?
All right. I think the North, it all depends on who starts at quarterback for the Vikings.
You think that the Vikings could win with Bridgewater as the quarterback? You'd win the division.
I think they could win the division with Castle at quarterback. 11-5.
Okay.
I think Bridgewater, they're probably 9-7 this year, but their long-term setup is better. Because he's going to have some growth pains, just like everybody else.
Well, so I think that the Vikings are good enough to compete in most divisions in most years with the roster setup they have, with the coaching that they have. It's like Ryan Castle has looked phenomenal relative to himself, so far, not just in the preseason but in training camp as well. But you would have to sell me on them being better than the Packers. I can believe the Bears. I don't think their defense will have improved that much, even though they got Corey Fuller. But you have to sell me on them being better than the Packers.
Well, they don't have to be better than their Packers. They have to be better than their schedule.
Well, right. They don't have to match up against the Packers. That's true.
I think they match up against their schedule better than the Packers match up against it. I think they're just going to win more games. Now, against the Packers head-to-head, they might go 0-2, which would piss off a lot of Vikings fans, but they'll be an 11-5 team. I think with Castle at the helm, they're an 11-5 team, if he plays like he's been playing all preseason.
God, he's been playing out of his mind.
He's been playing out of his mind, exactly. He's been playing like New England Castle, not crappy Castle.
Right.
I also think that if Green Bay's defense can't get it together, that's the issue there. Green Bay, their defense is just garbage right now.
And they're all going to get injured because they do every year.
Right. Well, so I think the Green Bay defense is garbage in a world where they get as many injuries as they usually do. So I can believe that, but I think that player for player, the defense is actually pretty good.
I like Peppers.
Yeah, but they're not playing well together.
You don't think so? I have my concerns about Capers as a defensive coordinator, but I think the way the scheme is set up, they don't have to play together as well as a lot of other defenses that are contingent upon dependent parts. To me, the problem with the Packers defense is almost always injuries, because I think that cornerback and that cornerback core is just fantastic. I mean, there were different arguments for Tremont Williams and Devon House and Casey Hayward all to be the top corner there, and then Sam Shields got an extension for a pretty good reason. None of them are top-tier corners, but all of them are corners that are starting capable for most teams, and I think that that's a pretty good setup. I don't like Morgan Burnett at safety, but I do like HaHa Clinton Dix, and I think that the pass-rush combination of having Nick Perry and Clay Matthews and Mike Neal, and then on the inside, Julius Peppers and Dayton Jones, I think those are all good. I think that Brad Jones is an underrated inside linebacker. I think A.J. Hawk is overrated, but he's serviceable, and they don't really care about their nose tackle, which is good because their nose tackle situation is trash. So I think the defense is fine.
A.J. Hawk is their Chad Greenway, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think the defense will be good enough, and that offense will be probably a top 4 offense. So
that's where I think Minnesota's going to have the edge. I think Minnesota's going to have a better defense overall. People love to go, well, head-to-head, which team's better, and they always look at the offense. But I think the defense in Minnesota, especially the run defense, is going to be better.
The run defense is going to be great. I don't think there's any concern with that from my end. I'm just really... The way the safety situation broke down shocked me. I think maybe I'm still reeling from that, from the cut situation. I am still really concerned about this linebacker situation. I like Anthony Barr. I just don't know if he is good enough to make up for what I perceive to be problems with Chad Greenway, what I think are problems with Jasper Brinkley, especially in coverage. Both of them are hugely suspect in coverage. I think any team with a tight end, and they're going to be playing a couple of them, any team with a tight end is going to just eat Minnesota because they don't have safeties, they don't have linebackers. They're not going to put a corner over a tight end because none of those corners are physical enough and have enough size at the same time. I mean, I like Munnerlyn a lot. I think he's a top 10 nickel corner. I don't think that's enough to make up for the fact that the middle of the field is just open for anybody. And the way offenses are going.
Xavier will take one side. The other side is...
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. We'll lock down a side, and then Harrison Smith can take care of a lot of things.
Xavier Archipelago.
But anyway, outside of the NFC North, I think it's going to be either Minnesota or Green Bay, with the loser getting the wild card there.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah.
I think the South is going to be the same way with Atlanta and New Orleans. And yeah, I know I'm coming off as a homer with Atlanta, but I don't care. I think Atlanta and New Orleans, again, whoever wins the games between them will end up winning the division. Because Carolina has no offensive line, has no wide receivers, and their quarterback has an ankle injury, and their defense has no secondary.
You don't trust Joe Webb?
No. And then Tampa Bay doesn't have a quarterback that I can trust. And their defense is going to have some holes that, yeah, it's a Lovie Smith defense, but Lovie Smith doesn't have all the parts to make that defense good.
He doesn't have a Peanut Tillman, I don't think, in this defense.
He doesn't have the pass rush.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the crazy right defensive end that he needs. That John Abraham, Simeon Rice. That
you don't like Michael? Yeah, they've got Michael Johnson. You don't like Michael Johnson?
He's the left end.
Oh, right.
So
Adrian Claiborne, which I think is reasonably suspect. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, Adrian Claiborne's maybe a 4 or 5 sack guy all year and good against the run, but that's about it. He's not a good pass rusher. So I don't think it makes sense to pick the Bucs. Now out west, it's not St. Louis because they don't have a quarterback. It's not Arizona because they don't have a quarterback. I want to pick the 49ers, but they keep getting arrested. So I'm going back with the Seahawks there.
That feels so boring, doesn't it?
It does, but it feels so right.
No, yeah, it's probably right.
And then if the Dallas Cowboys have Tony Romo miss any significant period of time, they could be a top pick candidate because that defense is going to be otherworldly awful.
That's probably going to be the worst defense in the NFL next year.
That's probably going to be the worst defense in the history of the NFL. I'm scared. I'm scared for whoever, whenever I have a fantasy player going against the Dallas defense, you guys will be sure to see them in my starting lineup. I'm going to put it that way. I'm just amazed Atlanta doesn't play them this year. The one team the 1 year they don't play the entire NFC East, or the 1 year they don't get Dallas and they get like the Giants, because the Giants were equally as bad as the Falcons last year. But no, if I had to pick the East, I'm going with the Eagles again. I don't see any way that Chip Kelly doesn't retain the momentum that he had with that team. It's a very good team out there.
All right, so for me, well, no, you still have one more wild card to pick, right? Because you picked one out of the NFC
You
South.
picked San Fran.
Oh, okay.
No. It's Seattle, it's Philly, it's Atlanta and New Orleans out of the South, and then it's
right. The Vikings and the
Minnesota out of the North.
All right.
I don't see another West team. I see the West winner at 9-7.
Yeah, no, I don't see another West team either, actually.
Because they're going to crap out of each other.
Yeah. So Seattle, obviously, in the West. In the East, obviously, Philadelphia. I don't have any disagreements about that. I think the Saints are probably going to win the NFC South, and the Packers are probably going to win the NFC North. So the two wild cards I have, actually, I was debating between, actually, the Falcons and the Panthers, and I think that you did a pretty good job convincing me that because of the injuries in the offensive line that I should probably pick the Falcons, because, there's a lot of reasons to believe in the Falcons this year, that they're not going to be who they were last year. A lot of reasons.
A lot of them start with the number 6 overall pick.
Yeah. That's going to help. I think a lot of things are going to help. I think having Mike Tice is going to help.
Coach, but great line coach.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as a head coach, had some weird things that got in the way, because he wasn't actually all that bad with the Vikings. But then a new ownership came in and he got kicked out. It was kind of weird.
He's not a good offensive coordinator either.
Yeah, he's a terrible offensive coordinator. There's no question about that. But beyond that, so I guess I'll pick the Falcons, and then my other wild card, I have to pick between the 49ers, the Rams, the Cardinals, the Vikings, the Bears. I'm not going to pick anyone out of the NFC West. I kind of want to pick the Panthers just because I like that defense so much, but I'm just so hesitant to pick my own team. I don't want to get snake bitten.
Do it.
No, I can't.
Both of us have.
Fine, I'll pick the Vikings. Jesus. I got pressured into picking my own team.
All right, I'm not picking either of your teams. No, I have so many thoughts about the NFC because it's so much better than the AFC, and it's really hard to pick
interesting.
teams.
It's so interesting.
So I'm going to start with the easy one. I mean, I think the Seahawks are going to win the West. I think the Saints are going to pretty easily win the South, to be honest. I love what they've done. I think that they're the number 1 seed in the conference. I think the Packers... The North is tough because I think that y'all haven't even talked about the Lions, who I kind of like, and the Bears I also kind of like. And it's really hard because I think that there are some really good teams here, but at the end of the day, you go with the best quarterback, and that's Rodgers. So I can go with the Packers there. NFC East, I'm a little bit more concerned about the Eagles than you guys seem to be because I think that they're going to
I think that the Eagles are overrated, but
I think they're going to miss Deshaun Jackson a lot. I think that a sleeper team in that division is the Washington Redskins.
No.
Because
what
they've done on defense this offseason, they brought in Duke Iheanacho to sort of be a complimentary safety to Ryan Clark.
He is okay.
Can cover the deep middle. And they have cornerback depth now because they have Daniel Hall. Is he awful? Maybe. But they have Iheanacho to help cover the deep middle now.
He's definitively
awful. Emerson, Breland, E.J. Biggers, who was really good last year for Tampa, and Tracy Porter as a dime. That's not a bad group of cornerbacks. And then you also have Ryan Kerrigan and Arakpo coming off the edge with Trent Murphy. It's not an awful group of people. And I'm a buyer in RG3. I think that you need to take around a year to get better after ACL surgery. I think he's had that time now. I've seen it happen with Manning. I've seen it happen with Brady. I am so tempted to pick the Redskins to win this division. So I think
that would make you a racist. So I don't know if you want to do that.
That would. So I think I'm going to. It's so tough because I can see any of the teams making it. I'm not going to pick them. I'm going to go with the Giants. Nah, actually not going with the Giants. I'm joking.
Don't do that.
I'm joking. I'm going to go with the. I can go with any of them, to be honest. I'll go with the Eagles just because they're the easy pick. But I could see the Redskins. I think they're the second best team in that division to me because of their offensive acumen. I think the Cardinals are a wild card team for sure over the Niners. I love them. I think that they're going to light up teams in offense this year, even with Carson Palmer being Carson Palmer. I think they're good enough to get 10 wins. That defense looks really good too. So I'm on their bandwagon for one wild card spot. For the other one, I can't go with an NFC South team. I think it has to be the Bears. The Bears are good.
I think there's a good argument for that, actually. The only reason I didn't pick the Bears is because of their abysmal defensive coordinator.
Yeah, but I like what they're doing. I love Cutler in moderation. And I like Alshon Jeffrey. I like Martellus Bennett. I like a lot of their weapons. I think defense they have.
No one has any question that the Bears' offense is good.
Jared Allen still has juice.
He's a 10-sack guy. He's fine.
I think the Bears are an easy 6, and I know Kian, who we like. Overall, we like Kian a lot. He picked the Bears to make the Super Bowl this year.
He must have a lot of belief in that defense. I think Peanut Tillman is too old and too injured to make up for some of those problems. I think Kyle Fuller is not going to make up for some of those problems. I think they don't have any safeties. I like Brock Vereen, but he's not a safety this year. Tim Jennings is good at forcing fumbles. That might be it. I'm not so confident about their linebackers. They moved Shea McClellan to linebackers because, A, he was bad at being a defensive end, and B, because they don't have linebackers. I kind of wanted to see more Kasim Green. It sounds like he's not going to start. I don't.
Awful.
Really?
He's really bad. Yeah, he's really bad. Didn't really cut him this year.
I
like Bostic. I think Bostic's really good.
I like Bostic. I remember in the draft I wanted the Vikings to get him. I'm pretty glad that the Vikings got Floyd, Rhodes, and Patterson instead, but, I like him. I don't know. I just feel like the interior of that defense, even with Will Sutton, who I heard has lost weight and is playing at his 2012 weight, which is good for him. Even with that, I think the interior of that line is really suspect, and it will continue to be suspect because they were so awful against the run last year. I think Lamar Houston is okay. I think Jared Allen is okay. I don't think they can put consistent pressure on the quarterback. I think the linebackers are a big problem. I think their safeties are an enormous problem. And I think Mel Tucker is the biggest problem on that defense.
Wow. All right, so before we head out, Super Bowl picks, super quick.
So we have to find reasons not to pick the Seahawks, right?
I mean, I think the Saints are better, to be honest. They're my Super Bowl pick this year. I have Broncos and Saints in the Super Bowl because I want Peyton to get humiliated again.
Yeah, fuck
and
you.
I have the Saints beating them 42-0.
The Saints aren't that good.
I was actually going to pick the Broncos. I wasn't going to be absurd about it, but I think
I think that Akeem Hicks ends up eating Peyton Manning by the Super Bowl's end.
Akeem Hicks. Did you realize what you just said? Akeem Hicks is going to eat Peyton Manning. I mean,
he's
whatever.
Good. I love Akeem Hicks.
Yeah, he's good-ish.
Cameron Jordan is going to roll Peyton Manning out into Akeem Hicks, and Akeem Hicks will devour him.
Yeah, Cameron Jordan is really good. He's like the fifth best player at his position. That's true.
Cameron, I don't know about that. Well, if you're looking at right defensive end versus left defensive end, maybe.
In all seriousness, though, I really, really like what the Saints have done this year. I think Drew Brees is sort of set to have a bit of a comeback. I think Brandon Cooks is a perfect addition to that offense. They got Jimmy Graham. They got Colson, they got Stills, they got all the running backs you could need. I think by the end of the year, Kyrie Robinson's their RB1 over Mark Ingram, although Ingram has looked good in the preseason, but I'm a huge Kyrie Robinson fan as well. I think defensively, their safety combo might be the best in football right now after the Seahawks and Vaccaro and Bird.
Really
And they
good.
complement each other really well. I think Keenan Lewis was a top 5 cornerback in football for me last year, and he's really good. I think that he plays to Stanley Jean-Baptiste's sort of strengths. Wait, you don't think Keenan Lewis is a top 5 cornerback in football? By my metric, and for cornerbacks, he was top 5. I use a 4-factor metric, so it's not just one number. It's 4 formulas into one.
That's one number, man.
Yeah, but it's not derived from one number. It's derived from 4.
I know. I just like, well, okay.
And I like what they did this year. I'm not there, and I'm not going to pick my team because that would be a jinx. So I'm going to go with the Saints. I like them this year. I think they could do good things.
I think they're good. I think they're that good. I'm picking the Broncos. And I just need the greatest quarterback of all time to have another Super Bowl. Please.
I'm going to pick the Chargers to make it to the Super Bowl as a wild card,
I like that.
but lose to a number 1 seed.
Seahawks?
And the number 1 seed, I think, is going to be the Eagles.
Oh, man.
That
That game would be fun to watch, though. Man, that game would be fun to watch.
Nasty. That defense should be much better now that they've got some actual talent on it. I mean, I think if there's a team that's going to do it, it's the Eagles.
I don't know,
That's
man.
something to be homer, because I don't think the Falcons are going to get past the first round if they make the playoffs. So,
If Peyton plays the way that he played last year, I think that the Broncos are the best team in football. And I'm just assuming that he will, even though he probably won't. But I think that even as is, I think the Broncos probably steal the Patriots bye. Because I think the Bengals are going to get the 1 because their schedule is really easy. So
I'm just happy that Chris Harris is healthy again. What a great corner.
yeah, they're going to be fun to watch. I mean, I think Emmanuel Sanders could have a really big year, too. I thought that the Patriots should have gone for him. They did, but they didn't get him.
All right. So is that it? We're going to go?
Yeah, I think that's it. Good show. We'll try to do this again, maybe Monday night or something next week, or we'll figure something out. We'll do it at some point.
Sure.
But no, this was fun. Good work, everyone.
Yeah.
Good night.